All right, we'll get started. We'll call to order the full city council meeting for February 18th, 2020. The clerk will call the roll.
Anderson Burgos.
Here.
Bartley.
Here.
Graney.
Here.
Hernandez. Leahy.
Present.
LeBron Martinez. Here. Lisi. Here. McGee. Here. McGivern.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
City of Holyoke.
And the city council.
And Mr. Could we just,
Councilor Leahy.
I think it'd be appropriate if the Honorable City Council give a moment of silence for our administrative assistant's father who just passed away this past week.
Yes, I was going to mention that, but yes, please, if we can have a moment of silence for our city admin, Ryan Allen, had a very tough time, lost his father, Matt Allen, a phenomenal gentleman, if you've ever had a chance to meet him, a great athlete, very sad times for them, so he's in our thoughts and our prayers, and we truly are sorry for you, Ryan, and the family, so with that, moment of silence for them. Thank you. Laid on the table is item number 1. It's from the clerk's office and our city admin. It's the December 17th, 2019 minutes. I know they were supposed to be updated or not done yet. Okay, so we'll leave it there.
Take number 2 off the table, please.
Number 2 is the motion to take off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This is Board of Health minutes of October 3rd, 2019.
Motion to receive.
Motion is to
Second.
receive.
Discussion.
Under discussion, Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, I really appreciate the council letting me do some due diligence on this. This pertained to a new board that was being set up by the Board of Health relative to, I guess, dog bites. And in the minutes, it made it sound like, well, the city council will just approve our minutes and we'll approve everything. And so I had some good conversations with Sean Goncalves, and he clarified the points for me that the minutes should have been a little more clear, and that the board's been set up and established and is proceeding forward as planned. But it's got nothing to do with city council approval, and there's that. So we're all good.
All right, so motion is to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Number 3,
Motion to take up off the table.
motion to
Second.
take up item 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This is that the Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that the City Council review and update the necessary Section 102-34, collection of fees, schedule of Chapter 102, Weights and Measures and Code of Ordinances. This fee was last updated in 1997, recommended that the order be adopted. And I know this was under discussion as to which we were taking up, and I know Councilor Bartley was doing some research as well. So turn it over to Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. So this has been tabled because there were 2 different orders filed with slightly different schedules. And our legal department, through the copier, circulated Second Amendment to Chapter 102, which I tagged for everybody as relevant to this item number 3 that's tabled. So I think by now everybody should have had the time to look at the numbers. When the DPW superintendent and building commissioner came in to talk about the numbers, they demonstrated that the rates that they suggested in the schedule were very much in line and very much far from the top of the rates being charged in other municipalities in the area. But they were within the range that's being charged in the region. And I think that David Bartley had made some good points in talking to, I'm sorry, I don't know the department that you were talking to. Was it DOR?
Standards. Division of Standards.
Division of Standards. Thank you. About the fact that the state is no longer going to be doing the inspections for us. And so we do need to figure out who will be doing the work. However, what's before us in this item is just setting the rate for the work, which again has not been updated since 1997. And we just need to get current for the labor and fees that are associated with the act of carrying out these inspections. So that's what's before us in item number 3.
Okay. Anyone further? Councilor Bartley?
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. The city of Holyoke is too large in population to have the Commonwealth perform the service. So as of June 30, but they're going to give I'm a very generous amount of leeway through June 30th, 2021, for the city of Holyoke to get its act together and do something that the mayor shouldn't have done to begin with, which is to have a sealer of weights and measures. Right now, there's a cafeteria in the former sealer of weights and measures office, operated by HPS and whoever their vendor is, Sodexo, I think. So the reason I had concerns about I mean, it's not. Listen, in 1997, I saw the fees in there. I think though that we need to get a better plan, especially from the mayor's office, as to get this together moving forward. Fortunately, for our sake, Mr. President, and for the Holyoke's sake, there seems to be a very conscientious director of the Division of Standards, Mr. Cassidy. I would also say, fortunately, there are persons in neighboring communities they're really professional. They're in this business, especially in Chicopee and Springfield, with whom I've conferred, and they want to lend advice if they're solicited. So, seeing how we don't get a whole lot of direction from the mayor's office on much, I'm hopeful that at some point in the next period of time, maybe you or the ordinance chair or whomever can think about putting together an order to have some of these people come in. It doesn't have to be. I mean, there's plenty of time. It could be maybe in the summer meeting or whatever, maybe in the fall, late spring, whatever, but it's not imminent. Still, we need to get a game plan together on what kind of person should be hired, and then hopefully that person with the expertise we get will really get us to a point where you understand what these fees mean and what they are. And I'll finish on this point. The gentleman from Chicopee could not have been more helpful. He was terrific. And he said, you guys in Holyoke are really missing a lot, and in that field. So I just wanted the body to know that, and I'm willing to work with anybody to move this forward, but I appreciate everybody's patience, especially the maker of the order. I know I asked for a lot of leeway on this, and I appreciate everybody's patience.
All right. Anyone further on this? Councilor Lisi.
Yeah, I'll just very briefly say, I think taking it up probably in the summer is a good time. What I do want to emphasize is that while the appointment of someone to the position is certainly the mayor's responsibility, and we need to figure out that end as a municipality, what's clearly within the realm of action for this council is setting the fee schedule, and that's what's before us this evening. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Maker of the order was always a patient city councilor. I commend everybody who got involved in this, because I filed this last February, and the reason was obvious that we are way out of date on the fees that we collect. We learned a couple things, and I think we do have to go forward and try to fix them. One is it's not just the fees that we charge, but because the state is doing the work. We were losing money with the state bringing in people, and the state doesn't want to do our work, especially at the size of this community. But we also learned that the department heads who were involved, which was Mike McManus, a little bit of Damian Cody, were not following up or had no way of following up on anyone who didn't pay the fees once they were sent the bill. And that scared me even more than, an outdated fee schedule, but also that if that ever got out, to especially to stops and shops and gas stations and small business people, why some people don't pay a fee that I have to pay, and yet the city does nothing about it. We need to get someone back into the saddle that works for the city, and someone that can follow up on anyone who's in the arrears or anyone who is purposely skipping out and paying the fees they owe.
So if there's no further discussion, there's a motion. Motion is to pass the,
Motion is to receive, adopt, and pass the first reading.
motion is receive,
Second.
adopt, pass first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the new fee schedule.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approved. Item 3. There is no one signed up for public comment. Communications, item 4 is from the clerk and the administrative assistant for February 4th, 2020 minutes.
A motion to table only because there really wasn't a narrative associated with that.
Motion is to table. All
Second.
those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 5 is from Alicia Zoller, Office of Community Development, regarding fiscal 2020 fund recommendations for Citizens Advisory Committee and OCD staff.
Motion to receive and send to DGNR.
Second.
Motion to receive, send to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 6 is from Eileen Regan, Chair of Planning Board, stating that the Planning Board voted unanimously to appoint Marcus Morero to the Whiting Reservoir Study Committee.
Motion to receive.
Motion is to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 7 is from Doctors Reich, Superintendent Receiver, Anthony Soto, Chief of Finance and Operation, Whitney Anderson, Maintenance Administrator, with regards to the MSBA for one new middle school.
Make a motion to receive for the Committee on Finance.
Second.
Motion is to send to Finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 8 is from Thomas Andrews, a letter of interest for the Writing Reservoir Committee.
Motion receive and refer to administrative
service?
assistant.
Motion is to refer to the administrative assistant.
I
All
say
those-
also
And this
copy
is
it.
for the alternate member
And also a copy to public service.
and a copy to public service. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nine is the minutes of the January 7th Gas and Electric Commission.
Motion to receive and send a copy to finance.
Motion to
Discussion.
receive with a copy to Finance.
Under discussion.
Under discussion, Councilor
Yeah,
Bartley.
I hope everybody had the chance to read the most recent meeting minutes, because they're really very telling as to what's happening with the moratorium. So I'm hopeful that all we can do is discuss this at this point, just be a bunch of gas bags, part of the fun. But I did have a chance to follow up with the manager, and he's able to quantify the cost to date, the annual cost to date, which is almost $177,000 in lost revenue to the G&E. So this is getting unbelievable at this point. It's a total disaster, Mr. President, and the disaster's on the city of Holyoke and the G&E. So instead of maybe earning that revenue and maybe putting it towards green technology or anything like that, it's lost revenue, Mr. President. And the hits are going to keep coming, because it's just going to get worse and worse. And by the way, Mr. President, that's just lost business that we know of. That doesn't mean there weren't people that maybe considered Holyoke for business, but when they saw this, whatever it's called, moratorium, they just turned away. This is what the G&E knows of. And requests for new services, requests for heating system conversion, requests for service upgrades, right in the meeting minutes, right here, January 7th meeting minutes. And Ms. Lavelle was kind enough to quantify it for me, $177,000 to date and counting. So I did speak with the finance chair about this prior to the meeting. I mean, there's only so much that we can do. But I'm going to suggest that these are going to be regular updates, Mr. President, and just be prepared for higher numbers and more bad news on this score. For what? For what? Thank you.
Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. Yeah, those minutes were completely interesting, and the amount of people who have been tried to get or to try to switch from oil to gas or try to get gas for either their business or their homes. Their numbers are pretty high. I just had a question, if I could, maybe through the chair to anybody that knows. One of the things that came up in front of our meeting was a company in downtown that obviously needs gas to do what they're doing. And they have a truck that's sitting providing propane 24/7. Now, I thought at some point years ago, we filed an order, and I thought I got approved that you can't have a truck idling for more than a specific amount of time. And that's essentially what's happening. It's because this poor company needs gas, and they're not getting it from the city, so they're hiring out for propane, and they have a truck that's continuously running. What are our thoughts on that? Because we did file an order, and I believe that it's now an ordinance.
That'd be enforcement, as with anything. Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, I think I can help with that one a little bit. I don't believe the truck itself is running. The engine in the truck isn't running. It's just sitting there as a mobile tanker. As they tap off it, when the tank is empty, instead of changing the tanks, they change the truck out. But it is sad. There's other companies that are right now companies in Holyoke that are having to look outside of Holyoke to expand their business and grow their business because of the lack of availability also, or being forced to look at similar measures to what Councilor Leahy's referring to down there.
Councilor Graney.
Just a question, how could this moratorium be overturned?
You got to turn your mic on.
Yeah, it's on. Councilor Sullivan.
Okay. So in defense of the mayor, it's not a moratorium of his doing. It's one that the Gas and Electric has had to impose on itself for new customers because of a lack of availability within the existing pipeline. There's other communities now involved that have to get in line, that are in line between us and the source, that have to have upgrades also, that are also have become an obstacle as far as our expanded capacity. So,
Councilor Graney.
Just to follow up on that, do these other cities have a moratorium?
no, they don't. They have plenty of capacity.
Councilor Wilson and Councilor Bartley.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would just note, it was at least 80 people that had petitioned the HG&E for some expansion or addition of gas resources. The irony is that the people are having to use oil and propane, which are both dirtier energy sources than natural gas. And our mayor did come out in opposition of expanding our capacity. Yep. And on the one hand, we keep saying we're business friendly. On the other hand, things like this send the loudest message that we are not business friendly, when the businesses are forced into a corner to use things. And I mean, I think probably the propane could be perhaps more dangerous as well as less clean in terms of an energy source. So I would urge our mayor to come out in support. It's the fact that we need the pipe to be larger so that we can get the gas into the city. It's not that we're building a pipeline through the city. We need to increase the size of the pipe.
Of
And
one
pipe.
short mile of existing pipe.
And I think we, as the representative body of the citizens, can urge our mayor to amend his position in that regard and urge and support the ability of the city to embrace this increase in access, which does not add piping through the city, so that we can use the money to then continue to develop the green resources. And years ago, I talked to Mr. Lavelle at HG&E about adding another turbine. At that time, it was seen as being just exorbitantly expensive. But at the rate we're running up the clock with this at $200,000 a month, I mean, I don't recall the exact cost of a turbine, and I'm sure it is hugely expensive, but I think we have to go for the win-win, which is do both things, instead of sort of vilifying the natural gas when we don't have another alternative. Thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
I just want to agree with all that. Just put some nuance on what my friend Councilor Sullivan said. The mayor is not completely to blame, but the facts are this, that Councilor Sullivan didn't say, that HG&E was in negotiation with the vendors, and when the moratorium was announced last Earth Day, the negotiations ceased. So you can take that the way you want to take it. Go ask Mr. Lavelle yourself if you want to confirm what I just said. But that's what he told me. So there were negotiations with vendors. Yes, clearly the pipeline has to go through other communities to reach the city of Holyoke. We know that. But when the chief executive, Mr. President, says no go, stone cold, full stop, that's it. So negotiations terminated at that point. So that shouldn't ever be forgotten. Second of all, years ago, there was an effort to try to put turbines up on Mount Tom. And do we recall who stopped that? Environmentalists stopped that. Green technology, wind power, stopped by environmentalists. So at some point, you can't have it both ways. I don't know what point that's going to be, because right now they've got us cornered. But until there's a little more forthrightness from the mayor's office, we're stuck in this mode, which is, again, a financial loser, approximately $177,000 to date.
Councilor Lisi.
If Councilor Bacon wanted to speak, I'm happy to.
I just wanted to clarify that when I was referring to the turbine, it was a water turbine on the river. That was all.
Okay. Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. So I just want to state for the record that I fully support a transition to green and renewable energies. I do think that our Genie does somewhat, somewhere in the neighborhood of 85% renewables at this point in time, and I think that's a really great portfolio. I think that the pipeline moratorium really is a social justice issue for this community, in that our city is being denied the same opportunity to grow with the resources that are available in the same way that neighboring communities have been able to enjoy and benefit from. So I know it's a slightly different view, but the green renewable energy sources are not as widely available as we would like them to be today. And so I think in the meantime, we need access to what is available in the same way that other surrounding communities have been able to access those energy sources and develop their communities with those same sources. So for me, I think Holyoke is really in a situation where there's a lack of equity and justice in terms of who has to bear the burden of lack of access. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, obviously, it would be nice if we could get to the point, and I would hope when the Finance Committee meets that the mayor is invited, the gas and electric director is invited, and we try to find some median ground. I also noticed in their minutes that they terminated, that they took the option of terminating the gas transportation agreement. I'm assuming that's got something to do with the pipeline, although I don't know for sure. But while I'm in favor of green energy, we also have to be in a position where we can effectively and economically get to that point by using what we have available. And it's also, right now, it certainly appears, what we are doing is creating an unsafe and environmentally unfriendly situation that's also economically costing the city. So we need to get everybody sitting down together, and let's figure out what we can do to increase our capacity while also working towards green energy. And we have to work together. We can't fight each other. We can certainly disagree with each other, but eventually we got to work together and figure out how do we get more gas for now, and how do we get to the situation where we can effectively have green energy at an economically affordable rate.
Councilor McGivern.
I think Councilor Murphy makes a good point. I just want to take it one step further, because it's unfortunate that whether it's an environmentalist group, a social injustice group, or any outside group, they see Holyoke as easy pickings. They like to use us for their testing grounds. They like to use us for a number of different social issues. And they like to, I could go on forever about things that have happened to this city unfairly. Unfortunately, but what we have working in our favor, fortunately, is we are one of the greenest communities in the Commonwealth. And people should be coming to us and asking to become partners and working with us to find ways to be able to keep an allotment of natural gas to keep our economic growth and economic demands going, and at the same time learning. We not only do we have hydropower, we produce hydropower and own a dam. We have a number of private industries on the canals that produce hydropower. Our coal plant was closed down. We worked with the owner and put up a very large solar field on that same exact footprint. And yet, and a good point, we looked at putting windmills up on the mountain. It was the environmentalist, but it was also a difficult project to begin with, because of the terrain of the mountain and because of the wind currents on the mountain itself. But we have done a lot in terms of both looking and of producing green energy and looking for green energy. And why would any group come in and protest us is beyond me. Because that is just a kick in the face to some people, who live and work in this city, who are very green, attentive, and understand the importance of it. Work with us. Let's become part of sharing what is left of this natural gas resource. But don't put a moratorium, force us into a moratorium because there's no availability. There's no way to get it to us. It just makes no sense, and that needs to be said louder from us because no one else is saying it in the city right now.
There's, Councilor Graney.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever to have a moratorium on something until we were ready for the transition. That's like the tail wagging the dog. I think that we should come on board as a council and recommend to the mayor that we should relieve that moratorium until we get the gas pipeline in so the business can be done until we are ready to transfer to a greener energy source.
Councilor Sullivan, you answered a question, so this is your second time. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to once again go over the use and the terminology of the word moratorium as it's being applied here. And as I'm hearing, we seem to have some misunderstanding going. And I think it's just a poor choice of a word at this point. The capacity is just not there. It's not available. All right? If we put in a 16-inch pipe and replaced it tonight, it's not there. The gas is not coming up the line to get there. There's other things that have to happen further down the line. All right? And I didn't expect this conversation to go this far tonight. I'd have some notes with me, but there's a pump station. I can't tell you if it's owned by Columbia or if it's owned by Tennessee or whoever, down in Long Meadow or on the Enfield line. That has to be upgraded at the same time. And all of these pieces have to come together at the same time to have the gas available here in the city. The only other alternative to do it right now is to come in a different direction that comes with a 20-year commitment. So if new technologies develop in the next couple of years, we're stuck with a 20-year commitment to purchase like $25 million worth of gas, need it or not. So that's what we're up against. It's not something that's imposed by anything except the lack of availability. If there's only 1 gallon in the tank, you're not going to get 5 quarts out of it.
Councilor Bacon?
Just briefly, I would just say, we were in negotiations, they were looking at upgrading here and down the line, and I would like to see those negotiations continue, because I think there's interest in it, but not if we close the door to it. There's usually more than one way to solve a problem. Thank you.
So the motion is to receive and refer to finance. Copy to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 10 is from Holyoke Media. It's a letter in response. What?
DGR, please.
Motion is to send to DGNR with regards to putting Spanish on the.
I just,
Yeah, we have something in the jacket. Oh, sorry.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I just would like to thank them for putting this and really trying to find a way to create, to cover our council meetings for the Spanish community. I mean, I think it's definitely something that is long overdue, and I think it can go a long way towards improving a community's understanding of what we're talking about, the kind of issues that people are placing, and the kind of resolutions we're trying to find. So I think this is great. I encourage them, and I thank them for moving as well as they've done and continuing on.
Mr. President?
Councilor
Not to take a bow, but that letter was written in my bequest, because I wanted to put on public record that they're ready, willing, and able to do that. So that's how the letter got to us. But we've got something in the committee now, so from my order and then from Holyoke Media, and I think the DGR committee can work with that. Maybe not March 9th, because we got way too many things going on that night, but when we meet again in April, so we'll get to it.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I just want to stay and thank Councilor Bartley for bringing this forward. I think it's something that's very important for our community. Who we have a very high Hispanic population in the city, and there's a lot of people that are really getting involved in local politics and wants to know what's going on. I am looking forward to the discussions in DGNR.
All right, so to DGNR, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 11 is a petition for a zone change for 405
Ordinance.
Ingleton. Ordinance, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? President's report, first off the bat is the March meetings. March 10th is, remember, we're moving our regular scheduled meeting to March 10th, at which time we'll have the parade committee in. And Councilor Bartley has been diligent to have that all set up, as well as the bagpipers and everything else. Anything else, Councilor Bartley?
Inauguration day for Madam Clerk as well. So
Yes.
we're on it.
Same group, we're getting there. Also, we moved the other meeting to the 24th. Is that correct? Those are the two correct dates now? Okay. There,
No, August 17th, you better say that.
Councilor Lisi?
Yeah, just want to piggyback that we are set for meeting as ordinance committee on 3/17 and then also on 3/31. And then on both February 25th, so next Tuesday, and then Tuesday, the 31st of March, we'll be bringing back the joint public hearings of the planning board and ordinance committee to deal with issues of zoning.
Okay, so we have February 25th, and then March 17th and March 31st are ordinance.
Yep.
Also, the 5th annual Homework House Spelling Bee is April 30th. If we want to get another team in, or two teams, however you want to do that, but that's April 30th. We have time to work on that. Joe and I are reigning champions for dead last.
For last place.
Dead last.
We need help.
We need lots of help.
A dictionary.
Yeah. Still,
They don't let
still
you bring
won't
one.
help us. April 4th, 9:30 is the 4th annual mini golf at the Hoyok Public Library.
What date again?
That's April 4th,
I was like, wow.
9:30 to 3:30. Let's see here. This came in the other day from Ed Case, as we all know. They're going to do the back to school event. That's August 15th. I know that's super early, but get it out there right away. It was a smash hit. That'll be 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at McNally Field. And then thank Mike Bloomberg for all the updates on the Essex House and all the stuff going on there. With regards to that, I'll just say one thing to remind all of us, not to be negative. Reply all, please don't do it. As we've been told by legal, that was Paul Pear, it's an open violation to the meeting law, so you have to be really careful to reply all. So even though it's innocent, as Paul said, don't do it. That was his advice when he was here. So when you get those type of things, just be cautious. I'm not scolding you. I'm just letting you know that's what he said is kind of what the state looks at on you. So, Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Even if you say thank you for the info or thank you for you can't say that either. Just want to make sure. I don't know.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
We
You're
talked
telling
about
someone,
that. Yeah.
sorry.
We talked about that, and he really said it's best not to reply all.
Reply all, okay.
It's a group information. Get us the information. It's innocent. Once again, no one's in trouble.
Guilty.
But yeah, I didn't point down any names, but it was no. I'm just kidding. Councilor Lee.
Yeah, so I think the best remedy for that issue is when one of us emails to do a blind carbon copy and not list every city council member on the two line. Secondly, is coming, March 7th at the merry-go-round is the, I would say now, annual Dobbin retirement party, whereas a few of us, when People's Bank took over the Yankee Peddler, we had a retirement party for the horse outside, which was named Dobbin. And so now we have the second annual retirement party, and all the Holyoke tartan will be on sale that day, and that's the 7th of March, and that is from 2 to 5.
2 to 5.
And after that, if people are so inclined, they can go up to the Holyoke YMCA for their sneaker peek event, which is at 5 o'clock. So that's a busy day. Thank you.
Anyone, Councilor McGee.
This Friday, the Parade Committee is also hosting the second annual Battle of the Bars. It's an event designed to celebrity host bartenders of bars that participate in the parade, putting on the parade itself, of some of their finest bartenders in a little bit of a contest as to who can raise the most tips. The tips go to the Parade Committee, which helps put on a parade that costs some, I forget, Jim, it costs, what, $125,000 minimum?
We don't disclose that.
What?
We don't disclose that.
I'm talking about music. I'm not talking about budget. The important thing is that the parade needs to raise money, and this event is at the KSC beginning at about 6 o'clock. Sacred Heart, Our Lady of Guadalupe, is having their longest standing Irish night in the city at the KSC this Saturday with DJ Riley is playing, and that's tickets are available at the door starting at around 6.
At 6. I'll point out one thing to that. When I was invited to be a celebrity bar, which I found funny, I'm not a celebrity. The outstanding bartender that night was the person in front of me. They actually wanted her back and offered a job where they told me, please get away from the bar. It's understandable. Councilor Graney.
Is it appropriate to talk about the early voting now in Holyoke, what the dates are and so forth?
The dates for early voting, I think it's March 3rd and March 31st, but I'll defer to the clerk. Nope, go. Election day, sorry. Early voting. I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Early voting is February 24th through the 28th, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30 in City Hall, and then it's also going to be Tuesday the 25th at the Senior Center from 9 to 12.
Thank you.
And it's only the 5 days this time. It will be the full 2 weeks in November.
Thank you. Anyone further? All right, that's it for announcements. Off to reports from the Ordinance Committee. 12A.
Be received, adopted, and pass the first reading.
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass first reading. This is a committee on ordinance was referred in order that in support of the $6.5 million Mass Work grant for infrastructure improvement will serve the affordable homeownership project for Colorado Vega Park in South Holyoke. And then there's a list of the streets. So under discussion, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. So I just want to point out that the different amendments to the traffic ordinance that are listed in the agenda here are also in legal form on your desk in case you want to look at it more carefully. Our DPW has secured a $6.5+ million MassWorks grant, and this is going to bring infrastructure improvements into the Carlos Vega Park area, basically going to make it more pedestrian, bike, family-friendly, and increase the residential feel of the neighborhood. And this is actually dovetailing nicely with a separate project that the Holyoke Housing Authority is working on to bring more affordable home ownership and rental opportunities into that same neighborhood. The amendments to the traffic ordinances here are focused on just creating a flow of traffic that's going to be a bit calmer, allow again for more pedestrian and biking in the area, greater access to the park. We do lose a handful of on-street, is that how you say it? On-street? Yes, on-street parking spaces, but it is minimal. And the housing project that the Holyoke Housing Authority is working on is going to offset a good deal of those losses. Overall, it seems like exactly the sort of revitalization project that we want to bring to the neighborhood. I think we want to show, especially the residents that live in the South Holyoke neighborhood, that the city is interested in investing and in revitalizing this area of the city. And we really want to, in terms of making a vibrant, livable, walkable urban core, focus on these areas that have fallen to the wayside over the years due to a lack of investment. So I'm very happy to support this, and I hope you all will this evening as well.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, first I want to thank City Engineer Bob Perrin, who did a great job going over this, and he also, the new fire chief was active with him, trying to make sure that what we're doing here, and there was a few amendments. The very first one, in terms of the pedestrian way on Southeast Street, got changed in order to provide fire protection for future housing. I know there were some concerns at the meeting about creating one-way streets and what. If we're going to do one-way streets down here, this is the time. The one on Southeast Street right now, there's only one apartment building that's still active there, so they're going to have very minimal impact on them. There's only a couple on Clemente Street between Hamilton and Sargent. Again, there'll be minimal impact there. And I think all that they've done is good. They also, in that design, that we're tying in the sewer project on Jackson Street Sewer, which is going to be a major thing. We're tying in the waterworks situation. We're tying in improving the alleyways, which are going to be an access to parking from the new housing that is being proposed in South Holyoke by the Housing Authority. So there's a lot of positive things that can come out of this. And again, I want to thank Bob Perrin, because I know he's been going back and forth trying to review, let's make this a little bit better, a little safer, and he's done all those things. And one last thing, there are going to be raised walkways on the streets to try to slow people down as they walk to and from the parks, because we've had some issues with people speeding around the parks. And so the walkways going to Carlos Vega Park and the walkways going to the Valley Arena Park are going to have a raised walkway for people to go across the street, and hopefully that'll slow people down. So all of those were recommendations that the city engineer came up with, and I thank him.
Anyone further? So a motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for this.
Brown Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you're approved. 12A. 12B, Committee on Ordinance, who was referred in order that in support of the South Holyoke Homes project in the vicinity of Carlos Vega Park, South Holyoke, that the City Council approve a home rule petition to exempt the Holyoke Housing Authority Development Project from Mass General Law, Chapter 149. Recommended that be adopted.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion is to receive, adopt the committee report. Under discussion.
Thank you. So this would be a home rule petition that we drafted into legal form, and then we'll be sending it off to the general court, the state legislature, to essentially exempt the Holyoke Housing Authority and this particular development project in South Holyoke from MGL Chapter 149. Which refers to part of the bidding process and the subcontracts that get rolled into the bidding process. So by creating the exemption, all contractors that contract with the Housing Authority would be subject to prevailing wage laws and the necessary insurance coverage and things like that that protect workers. However, the exemption just allows for more efficiency in the bid process. It allows us to eliminate extraneous costs that are involved in the subcontracting that occurs. And at the end of the day, it allows us to retain more money for the project and for a robust, again, affordable home ownership and rental opportunities in the Carlos Vega Park area of South Holyoke. So it's really allowing us through this exemption to make more dollars, to get more bang for our buck when it comes to developing that area.
Anyone further? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for this. do recall, and I heard their support that we have from the state rep, but which is fine, and this is all on board for the housing authority. I do recall us sending another home rule to Boston, and I for this almost a similar thing, maybe 4 years ago. It didn't seem to get very far, but that had to do with prevailing wages as well, Mr. President. I'm not sure what the change is right now, but it seems like this is coming from the housing authority. I think their track record is very good, and this seems like a change that may be able to afford them the opportunity to do more work and better work for the residents of the housing authority. I never really got an explanation from the representative, so what the difference is between this one and that one. They both have to do with prevailing wage, but I just want to remind the body that went down there and sailed to Boston, and it died a slow death. So we'll see what happens with this one.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, just in line with that, as I've been told, and that other communities have done this in terms of some public housing projects, and it had kind of set a habit, if you will, that the legislature is going to allow this. And Councilor Lisi hit it right on the nail. This is going to allow us to be more efficient, not violate anything in terms of contracts also, and it's going to be in a position to provide additional housing with the money instead of having to go out and do more bidding. And it's really, as Representative Vega indicated, and as the people from the Housing Authority did, this has been now a precedent in the state legislature for this kind of project. So I don't know related to the other one, but this is strictly a bid thing, and the prevailing wage is required.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I just want to highlight that the exemption from MGL Chapter 149 would still require the housing authority to meet prevailing wage laws. And the exemption refers to the subcontracting that occurs with projects such as these. So as far as I understand, it's very common for contractors to increase the bids up front because they are understanding that they're going to have to be working with local subcontractors that they don't necessarily have working relationships with already, and so they increase their bids to increase the overhead and cost that they assume is going to take place from working with local contractors that they don't already have relationships with. And so this exemption allows for a greater efficiency in the bid process. So still would be required to pay prevailing wage, still would have to cover workman's comp and all sorts of other insurance that's under the MGL, but it's referring specifically to the subcontractors. And I saw Councilor Sullivan have his hand up, so maybe he could add to that to some extent.
Councilor Sullivan.
Well, I can just tell you the difference between this and the other one. The other one was for an exemption to the prevailing wage. And I believe when we debated it here, we originally talked about contracts of 50, and we settled on, I believe, 30,000 as a number. So any contract that was under 30,000 wouldn't be subject to prevailing wage. And 5 other communities also filed the same one. I went down to Boston. We appeared before the committee, of which our rep was a part. But it landed on, I forget the exact term for what you call a slow death down there, but I got referred to some dark corner someplace for
Further study, Mike.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what happened to that one. And
well, we call it charter and rules here.
Well, that's what happened to it. And like I say, with anything that goes down there, good luck. A team better be ready to go down there and defend it and speak in favor of it and get some work done ahead of time, or it's going to suffer the same fate.
If there's no further discussion, we need a roll call for this. The clerk will call the roll. Vote yes, you're voting for adopting.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Murphy?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Graney? Leahy?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approved it. 12C, Committee on Ordinance was referred that the City Council adopt Mass General Law 59, Section 5, with regards to upon the acceptance of this section by a city or town, the Board of Assessors may grant real and personal property tax abatement up to 100% of the total tax assessed by a member of the Massachusetts National Guard and to reservists on active duty in foreign countries.
Be received and adopted, pass the first reading.
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion.
Thank you. So this was brought forward by our Director of Veterans Services in the city, Jesus Pereira. And basically MGL Chapter 59, Section 5, Section 656, creates the ability for, if we adopt this as a city council, it creates the ability for our Board of Assessors to grant a waiver or an abatement, if you will, of the taxes that are assessed to somebody that's away on active duty, either with the National Guard or as a reservist. The details in terms of like what percentage would be abated, would you be away that year or returning that year? Those are all details that would be hammered out by our Board of Assessors. And what we're doing tonight is simply voting to accept and adopt the general law, the Mass General Law, that allows our Board of Assessors to make a policy that will grant an abatement to, again, National Guard or reservists who are away on active duty in foreign countries.
Anyone further? Motion is to receive, adopt. This isn't an ordinance change, so.
It's not an ordinance change, but we're accepting the MGL, and so I thought because it's a
roll
legal
call?
form, it should be,
Because there's no legal form attached,
no.
but you'll have a roll call.
So then it's just a receive and adopt then, I apologize.
No problem. Just making sure, because I want to make sure we have everything in order. Motion is to receive, adopt. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for this change.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman. Bacon. Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Graney.
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approved it. Off to
Mr.
finance.
Mr.
Yeah.
President?
Yeah, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. If I could just maybe beg the indulgence of this honorable board, if we go out of order, the reports of public service, which we have at item number 15A, because I see the gentleman in attendance tonight.
I'll second that.
Motion is suspend the rules, go to 15A. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 15A, the Committee on Public Service was referred a mayoral appointment of Robert Edwards to the Commission on Disabilities. Recommended it's been complied with.
Just under discussion, just so for the people at home and the people that are here, the Commission on Disabilities, the purpose is to provide assistance to the city of Holyoke and to ensure that the city of Holyoke is in compliance with the American with Disabilities Act, both in the public and private sector, specifically in the building accessibility, communication, public accommodations, and transportation. It's a 6-person board, and according to our website, which is interesting because I encourage you guys all to go to the website and look at the different boards, because there's 3 people that are going to be expiring in March of 2021, and there's 3 people that have expired already in March of 2019. So it appears that there is 3 people, there's 3 openings, and we had 1 name put forward. I did see on some of the different boards in my little research that some boards were looking for people. I didn't see anything in regards to this board. I'm not saying that there wasn't or there isn't. I just didn't see it. But we did have 1 person, a very fine gentleman, and I'll reserve my comments to the end if anybody else from the committee or...
No, I subbed in on that committee to fill the quorum, so it is signed off by another member who is now back, but she was sick, so that was understandable. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I appreciate anybody's willingness to serve, and especially in voluntary positions. I appreciate the chairman's review of the committees that have holdover appointees or really are no appointees at all. There's a the system is such that you have to have an executive office that's engaged in the community, that's constantly looking at this. That's the full-time position in the city, Mr. President. And so I understand that we had one person put forth, and that the person does not reside in the city of Holyoke. Consequently, I cannot vote for a municipal board for the city of Holyoke for somebody who doesn't reside in the city. Regardless of attachment or affiliation, whether it's passing through or going to school, that's all great. I just, and you know, all good on however anybody votes. Just from my perspective, I believe you need to be a resident of the city of Holyoke to sit on a city of Holyoke board. I'll just finish on this note, Mr. President. We have asked for going on 2 years to get some feedback, and I just saw the chairman of the board on Friday at a Holyoke Public Library event. For 2 years, can we get something from the mayor's office to say, we would consider a charter change for the fire commissioners to allow city council approval? That is an incredibly important position, Mr. President. We said in return that we would be happily have a stipend for that board. But to date, there has been no communication from the mayor's office. I do understand from the chairman of the board right now that the mayor's finally added a third person. Did anybody know that? Probably not, because the mayor doesn't tell anybody. It just happens. So what the mayor has done, in my estimation, it just said, ignored our request and ignored the suggestion we made for a charter change. The mayor appointed somebody. So they're going down, and that board, Mr. President, hires and fires, spends a lot of personal funds going to not just board meetings, but also employment law meetings where they have to testify in Springfield. And so there's a lot to it, and yet we got nothing. Now, so back to the point. Sorry, Mr. President, for digressing. Again, I thank anybody who steps up and volunteers to serve. It's a wonderful thing, but I'm going to vote no on this candidate simply for the fact that the candidate does not reside in the city. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did attend the meeting and went in with some concerns about the residency issue itself. But after I heard the interview with Mr. Edwards, I was convinced that the mayor made the correct choice for a number of different reasons. One, foremost, Mr. Edwards is qualified. Two, his vision and goals for what the Commission on Disabilities is about is spot on to what a person who wants to serve in this commission should be thinking about. How to better do things within the city of Holyoke for people who are disabled. Disabilities in the city of Holyoke isn't just about people who reside here in handicapped parkings. It's about our government buildings. It's about our private sector buildings, commercial buildings, courthouses, state buildings, that they are all accessible for people with disabilities, and that there's a place for someone who has a disability and a concern or feels there's something not correct to go to say, hey, this needs to be corrected, or we've asked for this to be corrected and it hasn't. What really brought to me was attention was Mr. Edwards provided us both with a resume and with a letter of intent, and I just read the first sentence. I said, this is who we want. And this is what he wrote to the committee, or I believe he may have wrote this to the mayor, but he said, in his own words, is, how can we improve the lives of people with disabilities? This is what I am concerned about as a disabled person, to help disabled people live a normal life. That is what we need. That is what we look for on the commission. And I think Mr. Edwards meets the criteria. It's a mayoral appointment, and I certainly will vote to confirm.
Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, I also started off, when I saw a resident of Long Meadow, I thought, why are we doing that? And ordinarily, I would agree with Councilor Bartley and say, no, I can't vote for that, provided we had qualified candidates who were doing it. I was there at the interview. I was also very impressed with Mr. Edwards. And in terms of what we look to do in the city and his responsibilities on the Disability Commission, his goal is pretty simple. I want to make the lives of anyone with a disability in Holyoke better. Whatever I can do to do that, I will do that. And the dedication, I mean, when you heard his interview, the dedication in his heart to make people with disabilities have an easier life in the city of Holyoke convinced me that he will do a good job. So I've come along, and I'm certainly willing to endorse him. I would also encourage, especially after hearing Councilor Leahy talk about some vacancies on the Disability Commission, I would encourage those people listening from the city of Holyoke that want to get involved and make a difference. Here's a chance. And I would encourage you to apply and come before us with the same kind of enthusiasm that Mr. Edwards has.
Councilor Bacon, then Councilor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I just have a point of information. Do we have a past practice of appointing people from outside of Holyoke to any or some of our commissions, to anybody who knows?
I haven't heard of it in 20 years.
And then I guess my other point of information would be, if we are setting this as a precedent, is it then going to open up any and every commission, paid or unpaid, to the same opportunity? Those would be my questions going forward, that we might be opening up something. And I don't know if we should suspend rules and ask legal to weigh in, perhaps?
Motion would be to suspend the rules to allow legal to. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor Bacon?
So through the chair to legal, if we do approve this person as a non-resident, are we setting a precedent that could then be used or applied to any other commission, paid or unpaid, by making this change in this appointment?
I mean, I don't know that you're asking a legal question. So you can appoint whoever you want to these commissions. So whether you're setting a precedent, I mean, if somebody wanted to argue that you were able to appoint somebody from an outside community, that's, I guess, the legal question here. And I believe we dove into it earlier in the year, maybe, or maybe it was for this issue. But I feel like this has come across my desk before. And I think when we looked, there was no residency requirement for boards or commissions, at least for this one. I know some of them, it's explicit when they create the board or the commission that you have to be a resident, or it's stipulated that certain members have to be from certain places, whether it be an office or whether it was residency. So you're not so much setting a precedent. I mean, you're welcome to appoint whoever you want to the board. In the future, it may come up if somebody is as qualified, and there may be an argument then, but.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Grady.
Yeah, as one who lives with this every day, my question is primarily what Councilor Bacon asked. Would it set a precedent? It certainly would make it easier, I mean, for future appointments to commissions if we approve this. So therefore, although he's a fine gentleman and very qualified for the position, because of the residency, I don't believe I can support his nomination.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
So a few residents reached out to me in regards to allowing someone who lives not inside the city to be appointed to any position. And, I'm right there with them. Like, I feel that people who live in this community are very protected about the people who live in this community, and that the people who sit on boards should represent that and also live in the community. But my question is, do we have any other takers? Do we have anybody else who's interested who might be just as qualified? That would be my question, because the way I look at it, if this individual is very passionate about people and disabilities and is willing to bring his perspectives and his professionalism to the table, then that would also weigh in on my decision tonight.
Councilor Leahy?
Yes. So to answer your question, this Mr. Edwards, very fine gentleman, he came along with his one of his educators, and he's taking a class in civic engagement. Part of this class was to go online and look at different things. And what they noticed when they did go online, that there was, and I'm guessing they saw the same thing I did, that there's 3 openings. And so they proactively sent a letter in, from my understanding from that evening. But I certainly wouldn't go by this website that we have now, because if you look at the Whiting Street Fund, it says that we have 3 people on this. One expired in January 16, the next person expired January 17, and the third person expired January 15th. Then if you look at the Parks and Rec Department, it looks like we have Councilor Hernandez is the chairperson, Coach Listowski, who is expired. He hasn't expired. Let me. He's probably watching us home. God bless you, Coach. I love you, Coach. His term has expired. Oh God. I lost my train of thought. And so when you look at the Historic Commission, they haven't had minutes since October of 2019. So I think that what they looked at was a potential opening for this part of civic engagement that this person could represent. However, how we proactively reached out, I would say no, from my understanding. I do know at that meeting and after that meeting, I was approached by many different people that would love to serve on this board and serve on many other boards as well. So have we did the legwork? My personal view, no. Are there people that are willing to do this? So yes.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, so, given the fact that right now we spend millions and millions of dollars paying people working for the city, employees of the city that live outside the city, I want to say $10 million going out of the coffers, and now we're going to say we've got a position that we advertised for, that we advertised for it, whether anybody went out and recruited or not, and we've got one person for a volunteer, non-paying position that doesn't live in the city. Give me a break
I didn't
here.
get a copy of it. I didn't see it. I don't think we advertised for it.
It was online.
Yep.
It was.
So,
Show me.
so
I
to
can't
hold
find that.
this standard for a volunteer position, that this one here, no, you're gonna live in the city, but we're gonna millions and millions of payroll is gonna go outside the city. I don't buy that. And given, as an editorial note to tack on the end, maybe it's time with some of the other boards, instead of being forced to look and accept anybody that just came along and put them on a board because their only qualification for being on the board is that they're a resident. Maybe it's time we looked out the city, if that's where we have to go to find more qualified people to help us.
Councilor McGivern.
Just not to repeat myself or anything that's already been said, but I just ask everybody to think about this. Mr. Edwards has nothing to gain from this. Everything this is about is he's offering to bring something to the table that he is gifted, that he has uniquely able to see things that the commission needs to be working on. Mr. Edwards is not going to be paid for this. He's not going to get any headlines for this. He's got nothing to gain whatsoever. He's a giver, not a taker. This is not our appointment. Our job is to look at the resume of Mr. Edwards, a mayoral appointment. Does he meet the standards of this commission? Yes. There is no residency requirement. Be careful. If you're going to vote no, you need a reason to vote no. It's not our appointment. It's the mayor's. He meets the criteria perfectly.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I just wanted to note, I think my onboarding as a city councilor happened with Councilor McGivern, who was president at the time. And one thing that he told us as we were a new cohort of city councilors was that for political appointees, you could vote for anyone who you want. It could have been someone who submitted their name and a resume. It could be Mickey Mouse. That is the quote that I remember. And I think that, it's an exaggeration, but it rings true for political appointments. Unless there's some criteria that needs to be met, you can pick whoever you want from wherever you want. So I would rather, of course, someone from our city to step up and say that they have a vision and they want to be involved. I think that actually the entire success of this community hinges on robust civic engagement. And I think it's lacking, quite personally. And so if somebody from the outside wants to step up to the plate and offer their skills, talent, and experiences to the city, and there is no residency requirement, there are no qualifications other than that they have experience with being differently abled, then I think that this particular candidate is meeting the criteria that we have set forth. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
I'm all set.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Is there any way that we can like re-interview people who might be interested at this point? Not that I don't want to vote for Mr. Edwards. I would like to see if anyone would be interested in the position, so that way there's no conflict of interest or anything like that. I'm just asking that question because I'm not sure if there's any way to do that.
What happened, it's a good question. What happened was the mayor submitted an appointment to the Commission on Disabilities, and he submitted this person, of which we will have them in, interview them, and then we don't make a recommendation out of the committee. We just say it's complied with,
Right.
to then allow the board to get the information and make an informed decision. Can we say we want to do more interviews? Well, we could say, we can table this, we can deny it, and ask for more people to be submitted, or have the mayor relook at it. Those are yours.
Yeah, and that's what I would prefer, that we table it and have more interviews. That way, the community doesn't feel like, we weren't listening, and that we would make a better judgment.
Councilor McGee.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point or a fine point if it was one of our appointments, but we can't ask the mayor to put another appointment in front of us for his appointment. He can put one at a time. We have to vote it up or vote it down. If we vote it down, then the mayor can say, I'm going to come back with someone else, or come right back with Mr. Edwards. It's his choice. Yep. We're not doing the interviewing, other than for the fact that the mayor has done the interviewing and put the candidate in front of us for confirmation. Again, does he meet the criteria of the position? My answer to that would be yes. What more do we have to do? He's bringing something to the table.
Yep, so just to let people know, when this came about as a first being submitted, the personnel department did email us and the legal department saying that there is no residency requirement. That was one of the things that they had to look into. So as it was stated here, there isn't a residency requirement for this. To point in the sense of if this is voted, will it set a precedent? The answer to that is you can always go back to your list of boards and set up an ordinance to have it as a residency requirement if we have to fix it in that fashion. But as of right now, for this position, it was told to us, or told to me in an email, that there wasn't a residency requirement for this one. So Councilor Martinez for the first time.
Yeah, I would be in favor if this person, I wasn't here to see and hear his, or understand what's in front of us as far as his skills or whatnot. But I also think that we have to do more promotion or more like getting the word out, because we talk about, and I see people even on Facebook talking about more civic engagement and whatnot in our community, and it really doesn't happen. That it's just on our website, and not to blame who's putting it up or anything, but I think we ourselves have to do that kind of work if we really want more people from our community to participate. That we have to help put it out there and let people know about it. Maybe coming up with a list of all these vacancies that we have in all these boards, and we start to, kind of getting others to see that it's available by Facebook, social media, whatever, promotions of any ways that we can think of, just so that we don't get ourselves caught up in this. I think we will also go through something similar when we were looking for our auditor at the time, that we didn't have enough candidates, and we wanted, and there's been positions that we wanted to be citizens of the city, and we've had to go out for these positions because they're not available. But we have to do some of the legwork ourselves. So, and I'm willing, this is a position that through my agency, Mass Hire Holyoke, there's people who are willing to do volunteers, and sometimes they're looking for opportunities, and I'm willing to help post this. And it's, not a conflict, because it's what I do. And we can help post that if anytime it's needed. Just letting people know. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I saw this appointment, I says, Long Meadow, there's nobody in Holyoke that wants to get involved. You know, I'm saying a population of almost 40,000 people and nobody wants to get involved. And I talked to Councilor Lay and said it, you know, was on the website. I remember seeing something in the paper, I think once, I don't know, might have been in the Sun or the Republican, about they were looking for people to serve on various boards in the community because there's a lot of vacancies in different boards. So I got an opportunity coming up here today about 10 of 7 to see Mr. Edwards outside and to chat with him just for maybe 2 minutes. And I'm saying, here's somebody who's enthusiastic about willing to work for the city on the board, a non-paying position, that's willing to help our community. And after hearing what Councilor McGivern and Councilor Murphy had stated about him, does he qualify for this position? I believe he does. Is he willing to work? Is he willing to put the time and effort into this, helping our community and helping people with disabilities? I think absolutely. So I'm very much in favor of this position.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I thank you. Just a couple of things. I said initially the candidate should be commended, and I'll add, I'm sure the candidate's qualified. I'll also add that I watched the entire interview, though I wasn't present in person. But I want to clarify a couple of things here. You know, to be admonished, to be careful about a vote. Mr. President, we have the right to vote the way we vote.
Okay.
To be admonished like that, that's not how it works.
Can vote
So
how you want.
that's not going to cut it. Second of all, if a counselor wants to make a motion to table an appointment, counselor can make the motion. I didn't hear the motion made, but I would second the motion. We have done that with the mayoral appointees in my time. So that's absolutely according to procedure to do that. So don't be, you know, I understand that some of us are a little bit newer than others here, but you have the right to vote on anybody up or down. This isn't rubber stamp time. Yes, the mayor makes the appointment, we confirm. That's the game. Mm-hmm. That's one vote. If a councilor wants a motion to table an appointee, we've done that for other positions. I remember Adam Podolko and all that nonsense early on. So we've done that multiple times. And then you know, like I said, I'll leave it at that. But listen, I respect everybody's vote here. Whether it's qualified or not, that's your own personal judgment. It's your own subjective standard. There's nothing written about qualifications. Does a person care? I mean, can the person show up for meetings? To me, those are huge. But this is a municipal board. Somebody wants to volunteer from another community, volunteer in that community. This is a City of Holyoke board, and that was my simple explanation. But I just want, you know, councilors to realize your vote is your vote, and your motions are your motion, and those are all right on point on procedure. You have the right to do that at any point. Thank you.
Councilor Vacan wanted to talk. This would be the third. You all set? Okay. Councilor McGee would like to speak. This would be his third time. Motion would be suspend the rules.
Here's the fourth time, Mr. President.
I got three.
Thanks. You're kind.
All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Councilor McGivern.
I'm not an attorney, but I do work in the courthouse, and I know what admonish means. And offering free advice is not trying to tell anybody how to vote. Okay? That's all I was trying to say was something. And if I chose the wrong words, I apologize to everybody. I just stand by what I say, and that's what I tried to do. And I did attend the meeting, and I have talked to Mr. Edwards this evening, like Councilor Tallman. And all I wanted to do was give the best advice I can, because I was there at the meeting, present with the person, and remind everybody that this is not our appointment, it's the mayor's appointment. We're examining the facts are in front of us. Can you make a motion to table? Of course you can make a motion to table. And I think I was the first person to say, we have to vote this up or down. Okay, I didn't say you couldn't table it, I just said, we can't wait for another appointment to come in until we act on this.
Councilor Anderson Burgos would like to speak. It would be his third time. Motion would be suspend rules. All those in favor? All opposed? Councilor Anderson Burgos.
So I just want to make myself clear. First of all, I have no doubt on Mr. Edwards' service and what he can bring to the table. I'm pretty sure he is an outstanding citizen and that he would bring quality, his professionalism to the table. But I'm also known for being very fair. And I've heard from countless of residents who feel very passionate about having an outsider, if you will, that does not live within the city to be on this board. So that is the only reason why I suggested maybe having another interview or seeking another. I just want to see if there's anybody in the city that would be willing to step up to the plate and actually do this. Because if I'm going to vote for Mr. Edwards, I want to make sure that I was fair for everyone in the community, not just one person. That's all. I just want to make sure that I'm as fair as possible.
All right, so just for procedure purposes, as was stated earlier, you can make a motion to table, you can vote it up or down, which is what I said in the beginning. So those are your options. With regards to that, Councilor Lisi would like to speak. This would be the third time as well.
Oh, I don't think I'm third
All those
on
in
this
favor?
one.
All opposed? Councilor Lisi.
Thanks. Just to be clear about the procedure, like, we could do whatever we want in this chamber, right? But that doesn't solve the issue, because as Councilor McGivern stated earlier, we don't get a new appointment before us. We don't get one person to consider, two people to consider, three people to consider until the mayor moves somebody in front of us. So if you don't like this particular candidate, whether it's for a residency requirement or something else, then your duty this evening is to vote it down and hope that the mayor puts somebody different before you. But there's no guarantee there, because we are just confirming. So we don't get to pick and choose until, I mean, it would just go on forever. We could deny until we get somebody different. So, I mean, I think that, again, we have like a range of options that we can act on, but the effect, what actually takes place, doesn't really change until the mayor changes his nominee. Thank you.
Councilor Graney.
It's just under Robert's Rules of Order. I think I'd like to move the question.
Move the question.
Second.
So if there's no motion, it would be to...
Motion to
motions
confirm
to confirm
the appointment.
the appointment. Do a roll call. The clerk will call the roll. You'll state... Nope. Well, this one's...
Roll call.
Roll call.
3 members have asked for a roll call.
Right.
Clerk will call the roll if
Wait, so what's the question?
you're voting for the appointment if you want Robert Edwards.
His address, please.
His address is 222 Red Fern Drive, Long Meadow, Mass. 01106.
And how long is the appointment for? Does that say that?
This is a 3-year term which will expire November 2022.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley.
No.
Graney.
Nope.
Leahy.
No.
9 yeas, 3 nays.
With your vote, you've confirmed Mr. Edwards for a 3-year term.
3-year.
3-year term, yeah. Expires 2022.
Congratulations, Mr. Edwards.
Order.
everybody.
All right,
Good luck.
I'll work hard, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 13A, back to Committee on Finance. Committee on Finance was referred due to overall decrease in public school state education receipts for charter school assessment. It'd be $12,522,870 to school department page 28. Recommend that be
Motion to
adopted.
suspend the rules to take up 13F with 13A.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Which one again, Counselor?
13F, which is charter school tuition.
Oh, the thing came off.
Or do we have another agenda?
No, it's,
Sometimes we do.
I got it.
Gotta move fast, Joe.
So motion to suspend the rules, take up A and F as a package. All those in favor? All opposed? A was the one I read. F is also Committee on Finance was referred. $634,166 from charter school spending tuition to personal services.
Make a motion to receive and
Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met with Anthony Soto from the school department. We visited a similar issue to this 2 years ago, and I think we all remember we learned a lot about the formula and the way charter schools students are paid for. And a quote that I'll never forget 2 years ago was Anthony told us, charter schools and school choice students are still Holyoke students, and the Chapter 70 monies coming in are just going out to other schools or other areas, school choice or other charter schools within the city to pay for the education, just like any other Holyoke student within the public school system itself, with some exceptions, of course. But this is a budget question. The first part, item number 1, is due to a reduction in the estimated amount of number of school students in charter schools. It's reduced from what was estimated, or at the beginning of the year, recognized by Holyoke and by the charter schools and the Board of Education, of 855 students. It bottomed out at 804 students. Therefore, the formula needs to be adjusted, and this reduction would address that reduction. We did learn that in fiscal year 20 and then fiscal year 21, that the amount spent per pupil is more even than it was in the beginning of the way charter school monies came in. Fiscal year 20 is $13,920 Chapter 70 monies, and fiscal year 21 will be $14,584 per pupil. So this adjustment, and I think Councilor Murphy did the actual calculations for us, and we thank him, for being present. And the committee voted to recommend that we take the reduction to balance out this part of our budget. Similar, the second item, 13F, is with the same idea in mind, but is with the school choice students themselves. These are Holyoke students, residents who have chosen to go to a school in another district. Whether it's in this case, Chapter 70 monies, also by formula has to follow that student. There's a reduction in those students. If anybody's got a better number than me, it went from, I think, 441 to 417. And the same idea here is that what we are doing is transferring the charter school tuition and the school choice tuition in the budget into what is known as personal services. Mr. Soto was asked point blank what that means or what that money will be spent on, and he told the committee, and I think those of us present, but I forget who asked that actual question, I apologize, is that this will be used for counselors and teachers directly in the school system itself. So the money will be well spent. So the committee again recommended 5-0 that this transfer also be allowed. This part of it we're doing in lieu of the fact that the school committee cannot act on the budget or cannot take any binding votes while we're under receivership. And the receiver has directed Mr. Soto and the administrative office to work with the city council on these issues.
Any further discussion? Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. I understand that these numbers are basically returns to the city due to lower numbers of students being sent out than were anticipated, but has the rate of reimbursement changed at all alongside of the reduction in the number of students going out of district?
I'm reading into the question, again, the amounts he told us per pupil is evened out, and it goes up a little bit each year. Thanks to our own state rep Vega, if this is part of the question, Councilor Lisi, Chapter 70 formula has been dramatically changed. But Mr. Soto told us we're only seeing a very small impact of the increase expected from Chapter 70 over the next 5 years. So for this current year, there's no significant impact difference with Chapter 70, but they are anticipating if the legislature and the governor, stays within the new language of Chapter 70 monies, that additional monies will be coming into our district, into everybody's district, but especially into Holyoke as a gateway community, and because of our large demand on special needs students. But right now, it's what we were told at the beginning of the year, per student, $13,920, and it's just a simple mathematical formula to reduce it because less students are in the charter schools than what was set forth at the beginning of the budget cycle.
Thank you.
Councilor Grady, Councilor Grady?
Just to add, these are all revenues that would be coming into the city. The charter school students that are there and the students that are going out of district are substantial. I think there were 465, I think Mr. Soto mentioned, around that number, which is that the city of Holyoke has to pay for, or the state has to pay for. Also, the transportation costs for these students, we have to bear the brunt of those transportation costs too. And these monies are significant, so I just wanted to mention that.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I thank the finance chair for summarizing, which is very convoluted and complicated, but to answer a question from a counselor, it's really hard. I mean, you've got to really watch the video and try to watch the meeting, and even then, good luck. You might have to go through it a couple times. It's just really complicated what the secondary education, what they do to school districts. It's just the bottom line. This ends up being about a $340,000 net gain to the public schools because of the formula, which is going to go towards teachers and counselors. Mr. Soto was optimistic about the future due to the foundation budget. I think everybody in Boston probably, including especially the governor too, has to be given a lot of credit for seeing the need, especially in poor school districts, and when you've got so many competing interests. The numbers that were thrown out to the city council were staggering. I'm not going to bother to repeat them right here because they're just numbers, and I'm not even sure really what they mean. I've got them all here, but you can easily watch the tape. The per pupil spending looks like it's going to go up incrementally every year for the next 6 or 7 years. That's the way Mr. Soto described it. There's still an onerous burden. I know Councilor Leahy's talked about this many times, the transportation. That's still on the municipality to deal with that. I think a little bit it's unfair, especially on district transportation. These are budget numbers, and that's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with academics. But I appreciate what the finance chair did. It's tough running a meeting like that, taking notes and trying to summarize it and having all these convoluted things come in. And I think he hit the nail on the head for all of it, really. I don't really have anything to add. I just want to add a little nuance. There was one other thing, Mr. President, that these orders come in, and good luck deciphering them. They're hieroglyphics, but Mr. Soto did provide a memorandum to us. It's probably attached to the jacket, and it did support the numbers and how the numbers kind of fell about, if you would, and that helped me because you're looking at it, and Mr. Soto's trying to explain it as best he can, and we're all lay people here, and Joe's running the meeting and he's taking notes, and so it's not easy to do it, but I think we could do ourselves all a favor and rewatch that. Is that February 10th, Joe? I don't remember. Well, it was one of those meetings that we had.
Correct.
Do yourself a favor and watch that meeting. Watch the beginning of it anyhow, and it doesn't go for 4 hours, thank God. It only goes for 2 hours, so hopefully some of that helps. But the numbers, I think each of us do well to take our own notes and pull out what you can, because the numbers are pretty amazing about the number of students in school choice, number of students in charter, what the secondary education does. You overestimate your budget, and we'll figure out halfway through. What? But that's what they do. That's what they make school departments do. Way overestimate it. Halfway through, we'll figure out the numbers. Okay, that's what they do. So this is why we have the orders in front of us. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, I just want to briefly state that it was very informative. I thank Mr. Soto for coming and explaining that to us the best he could, and I think I got a page or page and a half of notes that I took trying to figure things out. But I think that what I took from that is basically just evening things out with the state. Took halfway through the year looking at what the number of students we have, and then finding out that we actually have less than the charter school. And the good thing I took from the whole debate was that in the next 7 years, Holyoke is looking better, has founded more money that the state will be giving to the school system in Holyoke. And instead of, every year trying to cut in $1 million, $2 million from the budget, maybe slowly you will be getting a little bit ahead and maybe having, more, instead of trying to cut from programs and cut teachers, that we can have a good, robust school system in the years to come. So thank you for explaining that to us, even though it was difficult. I might take a look at the tape again, too, Councilor Bartley said. And thank Councilor Murphy for putting his numbers down. He's always good with the calculator over there, trying to get us, the exact figure and the numbers and the head. Good mind. But I think it's important to know that the school system, hopefully in the next 7 years, each year will get a little bit better. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilor McGivern, then Councilor Graney.
Just a couple additions. And I appreciate everybody in the committee, everybody that was present that did take the time to listen to Mr. Soto. And Anthony, by appointment, of course, would be glad to sit down with anyone one-on-one. And I know this as a fact because he likes to explain this stuff. Anthony is a Holyoke kid. I think a lot of us, and I mean kid because I remember his dad playing sports here in the city of Holyoke not too long ago, if I remember, Mr. Sullivan. And it's nice to see someone. He came to us, we say, through the Springfield Public Schools, but he really is a Hoyoker at heart and understands the importance of this. But more important, he understands the numbers of what we're talking about. And I think we all have our own feelings about charter schools and the lack of accountability for monies that come in through the city and go out to charter schools. And I don't know who's watching because it's not local. And if the state's watching, I don't know how they do it or when they do it. But the formula, we did find out, nothing to do with the vote this evening directly, but indirectly, the reimbursement formula for charter school students is that initial charter school student, we're supposed to keep an equal amount of money of what is spent on that student. That has never been 100% funded by the state, and that's because of the point that was just made is we're halfway through the year, and they finalized the number instead of doing it back in June, in July as the budget started. They finalized the number. We did find out that no matter what happens for the next 5.5 months, these numbers, do not get adjusted anymore. And I went out of my way to ask them, well, if the state halfway through the budget cycle is going to change the formula or the money for charter school and school choice students that are going outside the district, are they also going to change for the amount of money, the addition of money of students coming back into the system? And Mr. Sola said, no, that's not the way the state looks at it. They just look at the charter formula, but they don't adjust the overall student formula for Chapter 70. We get good monies from the state. And finally, the language is correct as to what our actual needs are in terms of a gateway community. So I'll leave it at that. But this is an adjustment which is, too often on the state level in the middle of the year.
Councilor Graney.
Yeah, the only problem I think that we get from the state is they budget, I think it is 3.78% for special ed, and our special ed needs are at 27%, so there's a large discrepancy there.
And that's the new language is supposed to change that, Councilor Graney, and that's what we're hoping that they live up to the new language.
Let's hope so.
So no further discussion. Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading for A and F.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading for A and F.
Motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for A and F as a package.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approved A and F. 13B, Committee on Finance has referred in order acceptance of the Holyoke City Hall Restoration Repair Grant. Motion to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Our discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a $50,000 grant, no match to the city. It's a grant that comes because we can use this for both the consulting architect, consulting people who are involved with the restoration project going with the stained glass windows in City Hall above us on the second floor. It's a welcome grant in that the grants that we do receive for each of those windows that are very expensive to restore cannot be used for this type of purpose, and this is a very important part of the process of restoring the stained glass windows. So the committee did recommend 5-0 that we accept the grant. Again, there's no match.
So the total was?
$50,000.
$50,000.
You see, I'm trying to read through and delay the process because we don't have our record keeper. Councilor Bartley.
You might be interested in knowing that the per window costs are $60,000 to $70,000, so this gets us part of a window, but there's also another, I don't know, Joe's gonna have to explain this, but there's $15,000 from a Cynthia Woods grant that may be able to supplement this one, so, I don't know, it gets us a little bit closer, but there's, I mean, how many windows are out there, or out, it's like, there's first of all, I'm not even sure how many windows there are. I mean, with the ones in front and back and the sides, it's double digits. And how many ones are still out? It's close to double digits. So there's a ways to go on this, but at least there's progress being made.
All right, so motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the grant.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney, Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the grant. 13C, Committee on Finance, in order to accept the Senior Safe Grant. Motion is that receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Our discussion. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met with
This is the
fire department,
Fire department.
both our new chief and with Maria, help me out because I always butcher her last name.
Lieutenant Pelcher.
That's what I said. Thank you, Councilor Ron Martinez, who is, I think we all know, tremendous. In lieu of the Allen family and Ryan not being around last week, I'm not sure if everybody got a copy of it, but Maria brought copies for everybody about what the safe education is about at least 3 times a year. She is in an actual school classroom in the public schools, promoting and educating our students on what fire education is and what the safe part of fire education is. I think it goes without saying, Maria does a tremendous job, whether it's, bringing sparking into the lives of children, but more important, bringing education into the life of our children, and not just our children, but families, is something. The grant is used exclusively for those efforts, and the committee recommends 5-0 that we accept the grant, which is $5,200. Thank you, Councilor Bartley.
Any further discussion? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just to add, again, thanks to the chairman, there's materials in dual languages. They go into not just schools, but they go into shelters, group homes, the senior towers, and they're bringing all, and it's Lieutenant Pelcher with two other firefighters. She said female firefighters, so those are her words. So which is great. It's wonderful, and this grant, and we're very appreciative of it. It supports their time to do these visits, multiple visits, and as it turns out, and in both English and Spanish. So very positive.
There's no further discussion. Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the grant.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
So yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the grant. 13D, Committee on Finance was referred in order that in accordance with Mass General Law 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accept the SAFE grant, the Student Awareness fire education grant.
I'm just glad everybody's listening and paying attention to me, because what I just talked about for the Senior Safe Grant is what I want to say about for the Student Awareness Grant. Both grants are used similar to Senior Grant, obviously. Senior Safe is for seniors. The Student Awareness Grant is in the public schools themselves. The only difference is that the Senior Safe Grant is, Maria goes out into the community, into nursing homes, the senior center and places like that to teach seniors the difference of what they're doing. But the student awareness is with Maria Belcher, and the Senior Safe is a little bit different. But both are educational grants.
Any further discussion? Correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor McGivern, don't they also provide smoke alarms and carbon monoxide for seniors if they qualify? That was one of the benefits. I remember that from last year. She told us that. So
That
that's
has been in
something-
the past. I didn't hear her say it this year, but it is part of it.
Yeah, she said it.
Yeah, just for those who are at home, if you're looking for a fire alarm or a smoke detector, call the fire department. It might be something that they can help you with. So it's something that, just get that out there. Any further discussion? Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the grant.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Greenie,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the grant.
That grant, Mr. President, was $2,200, but Maria makes it go a lot further.
13E, Committee on Finance was for an order, $11,549.48 from head clerk to investigator. Recommended that be adopted. This motion is to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Or discussion? Councilor
The
McGee.
committee did meet with Jesus Perros from the Veterans Department. We had a lengthy discussion about both the reasons for this. First of all, the money's coming from the head clerk. Unfortunately, a head clerk who was doing very well and in his own words was above and beyond the call of duty in terms of what her performance as a head clerk. She was doing a number of things that went beyond what her duty was. She received such a good training that she's actually taken a position in another community and has left the city of Holyoke. The investigator is part of the discussion we had during the budget hearings earlier this year, and an investigator position that has been around for a long time, and the funding for the different ways that Jesus wanted to do his departments. He seems to have come to a better grips as far as what he's looking for, and he's looking to keep, not fill the head clerk position, but looking to keep the investigator. This person does far more than what the head clerk does, including investigation of when money comes in and money goes out to veterans who qualify. This person does make sure that those the criteria remains, and that they are not dipping into a fund that they at some point in time become unqualified for, or not unavailable, but ineligible. Thank you, Councilor Bacon. And we think that, or the committee voted 5-0 to think that this would be a good thing. This would bring, the salary is $36,000. This would bring it back up to the $36,000, the transfer being the $11,549.48.
Any further discussion? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, it was a pretty good summary. I just want to, I think, if I may, Councilor Tallman and I, we have some pretty frank comments about what happened at the end of last fiscal year. A little bit disappointing, Mr. President, and then we had the dog and pony show on the special meeting after the first of July. That was all done illegally, the way they tried to maneuver his budget. So what we did tonight was we approved something that the department had wanted for veterans that are overseas for a tax abatement, and now we're going to do a financial transfer, and we're going to see how it goes for the rest of this fiscal year. But it was very unfair the way this board was treated, in my estimation, last year by the department head, by the mayor. put on the whole show as if saying that this body was anti-veteran, which is completely outrageous. And it was unfair, but, you know, they got the bully pulpit and, you know, so be it. But I made it clear to my, and so did Councilor Tallman, made it clear to the department head that just, you know, do your budget properly. If you want a position, you know, send it to the ordinance chair and she'll file it, and then we'll have a debate on it about the position. But you don't do it through the budget process. And then you don't put on a little show and tell to embarrass the city council after the fiscal year. Unfair. So, thank you.
Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've had a few limitations, so I haven't attended as many committee meetings as I usually do, but I did watch the majority of this one on television. And I paid careful attention to this one because I think, from my point of view, this is a modified version of what happened in the special budget. What was of particular concern to me was that this will increase by over $10,000 the next budget already, because this is just a transfer, but then it will carry forward. I can't remember if it was 10,000 or 13,000. So we're already obligating a future budget by passing this. The other thing that I would note, that I would have asked if I'd been there in attendance, was how many different veterans are we serving in comparison to last year? Because when people start talking about interactions versus persons served, it usually means the numbers of people served aren't changing a whole lot. But what was of particular concern to me was that with 2 full-time employees, actually 3 full-time employees, there had been an ineligible veteran for which we are now liable for $50,000. And that was the reason used for increasing the investigator. Now, we have been told repeatedly by the department head that we have 2 of the very most qualified veterans certified at national this and national that. And I really have a problem increasing another position when we've had the full-time head of the department, the deputy in the department that for years was part-time, that had been increased to full-time within, I don't know, the last 5 to 8 years. And we always had the full-time investigator rather than chief investigator. So now we're keeping the chiefs, and they want to put the investigator back, that when they had been there full-time, historically, we had not had these issues. So to me, it's like a late fix. The people who have come before us and said, we have extra qualifications, we are more qualified, we should have got all this money in the other budget, are now coming in saying, we're on the hook for $50,000 and we need to do better investigations. That was how I heard it. If somebody was there and heard it differently, I'll stand corrected. And I can't encumber the next budget when we're in such dire fiscal straits here. And I would have to be convinced that we are serving more veterans before I will vote to increase that department by thousands of hard-earned taxpayer dollars. So that's just me. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I'm going to stand behind our Director of Veterans Affairs. I think he had given us a report last year about the amount of veterans that were served, and I think the number has increased substantially. At that meeting that night, he did state about somebody that wasn't qualified for certain benefits, and it was up to $50,000. But I took it as, you know, I don't know if the city's liable for it. I mean, the gentleman got the money. But having an investigator in there would prevent future people from trying to apply for benefits that you know they aren't eligible for. You know, it does increase the budget, but I believe that it's well worthwhile to have an extra investigator. The investigator was in the budget. We just hadn't filled it with the part-time person, clerk leaving for the office locally, I believe, in Holyoke. A position that they got through the hard work that they've done and saw better opportunity, that helping this office to have 3 full-time people, and they do have many qualifications in that department. It is well worth the investment in having to spend that extra money. I mean, we'll see what happens for the next 4 or 5 months with this transfer from within the department. Budget time's coming up, and if people feel that it's not important to have that position in there, we could always cut it and have them come in again. It's up to us to do that during the budget, but I believe that Jesus done a great job since he's been on. I've talked to him several occasions at the War Memorial and been at several events with him, being a veteran myself. I'm very much in support of this transfer for this investigator position.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, I think, I was at the meeting, and I also had met with Jesus when he was talking about this, that it was a person who had $50,000 that they weren't accounting for. It wasn't that we lost $50,000, but we did lose money. They got funding that they weren't eligible for because of the amount of money that they had in some kind of trust fund or something. That, in his opinion, one of the things the investigator would be doing is to make sure that all of the veterans receiving their benefits are fully qualified. And as he indicated, that was one case, and there have been several others. And without a full-time investigator, and it also, as I understood it, would allow him and the other administrator to be in a position to work more directly, reaching out to the rest of the veterans that are out there. So I also would, I know there was talk, and it had been suggested to him that he wait to go through a budget process and look at it from again. And I thought, you got a chance, bring it to the city council, let us talk about it, so we're not dealing with a 100-page budget and trying to give you 5 minutes. We're really getting an understanding of what you're looking to do. And again, I would tell you that I've been very impressed. There have been times I call, and I know with two people now, and not having an investigator right now, that they're not as, they're very quick at responding, but they're still going to have somebody staying in the office. And so I would recommend that we do it. I know the budget is tight, but again, if this potentially saves us some money by not having people getting funds that they're not eligible for, but also makes it so our service to our veterans is as good as it can possibly be, I would suggest that we okay this.
Councilor Leahy, then Councilor Green.
Yeah, thank you. So the person that that did work for him worked part-time and went over to the auditor department as a full-time, so you can't fault that person from going to a part-time to a full-time, but he did say that this person was extremely qualified and he's going to miss that person. As Councilor Murphy said, that this one individual had an excess of $50,000 in some sort of trust that they would not have picked up if they didn't have somebody that's investigating, whether it's part-time or full-time. They also have access now. They have this new computer software, so they can actually dive into the VA and different investigation tools. Jesus is a very conservative person. He doesn't like coming in front of the city council, finance to ask for anything, but he says when he needs to, he has to. And he did, and he has to. So I'm going to vote for this. Thank you.
Councilor Green.
Yeah, I'm going to support this. I think that there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done in a position like this, and I think in the long run it will save us money.
Councilor McGivern, then Councilor Bacon.
I think with going back to when the mayor put Jesus in front of us as his appointee and our looking for our confirmation during the interview process, it came out, and I'm going to pretty much, I'm not going to quote him, but what he said to us and what I think he's done is he wanted to increase the outreach component of the Veteran Affairs Department itself, meaning he wanted to go out and find out who the Holyoke veterans were, because many veterans, and this actually goes back to the Vietnam War, and I think Councilor Tallman, understands this more than anyone in this room, is that a lot of Vietnam veterans, years later never reached out for what they have coming back to them, or have never reached out for help that they need. And it's sad, and it's indicative of what happened at the end of that war. And I hate to say it, but we're in the longest war we've ever been in as a country, and it's starting to look like it's another Vietnam. And we got more and more veterans coming back from Afghanistan, more and more veterans coming back from the Middle East, and it's a whole different type of ballgame. Jesus is on top of it. The numbers are, it's not just about the money that comes in through the state, or the money that goes out through Veterans Benefits, Director of Military, is reimbursed by 80%. So it needs to be accounted for to get the reimbursement back from the state, and that's what, a big part of what the investigator does. But what the deputy commissioner and commissioner are doing are a lot more than just accounting for that money. They're doing things that we've talked about this evening and more. There are veterans out there that, because there's a snafu in their discharge papers and their qualifications, or I'm missing the term, Peter, but the level of what they were discharged at. I'm not meaning honorable or dishonorable, but they should qualify, and they don't, because someone didn't put the proper paperwork in. It takes not months, but years and you need someone to do it and to advocate for you to go after that. And Wilfredo does that for a number of individuals who are Holyoke residents to make sure that they are eligible, and even just to go to Lee's and get some medical attention. They can't do it unless that paperwork is changed. And it's sad. It's sad for any veteran, is someone who's put their life on the lines for each of us. And, they served in an active duty in the war, and we should be doing everything we possibly can to make their transition back home the best it can be.
Councilor Bacon.
I just wanted to thank the members of the committee for clarifying that economic point for me. Sometimes when you're not there and you're listening, it's, you don't always get it exactly. Thank you.
All right, so if no further discussion, motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Absolutely.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
What do you vote? You approved it. 13G, Committee on Finance has referred an order that $28,643.52 from reserves to personal equipment. Recommend that be adopted. Motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Earlier this year, we voted to accept the grant to purchase a number of new bulletproof vests for our police department. Within that grant, there is a match that was necessary. This is the match coming from within the police department budget, because they want to live within their budget for the rest of the year. And it would be from the reserves account, which is line item that is used per diem when reserves are working, into personal equipment that would satisfy the matching grant, so that the grant can be accepted to pay for the bulletproof vests, which are, I think, obviously necessary for our men and women who perform the duties of police officers.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. So this is kind of just housekeeping for that first order that we did. But what was said at the first meeting was kind of shocking, that a lot of these vests, I shouldn't say a lot, but a good number of these vests are expired. They only have a certain amount of time for shelf life. And so people are utilizing vests that have expiration dates. There I go again with that word, expire. So I think this is something that's good, and they have to order them. People have to get fitted for them, so it takes some time. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, just briefly, and I know this is a match for the vest and a very important item for the police department, but I did mention the Sergeant Hart. I think there might be a possibility to the state public safety department to try to get reimbursed this money, and possible to go back into the reserve account. He did state that it's a possibility, so we're going to try to write that grant and see if we can get that money to put it back in this account. It's worth a shot. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but there's a possibility.
Councilor Green.
Yeah, this is to keep our men and women safe on the job. Obviously, we got to vote for this.
All right, so motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 13G.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Graney.
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve 13G.
President, ask that item 13H be referred back to committee.
Second.
Second.
Yep, it's referred back. No one has signed the jacket, so 13H back to committee.
President, just a point of order?
Yep.
On that, so, none of us signed the jacket, right, so we're not gonna bring it up. I will say that we voted 5-0 to deny, so that's going back, and just for the record, that's the second one. I can't see the future, but That's the second one, along with the Bar Foundation, that came up to city council, and at the last second on the night of the meeting, it goes back to finance committee. So I mean, I'm just suggesting that I think both those were doomed at this point, but they're back now in finance. So again, we're giving deference and consideration to room one. Again, thank you.
You might be right, but in order to take it up.
Oh, no doubt. I
Sign
didn't
the
sign it
jacket.
myself.
Yep.
I heard
So,
from the finance
okay.
chair earlier. I know.
So, with that, 13H, for those who are at home, this is a request from stabilization for $118,000 for patrol school resource officers. It goes back to committee.
President, if I could,
Yes.
we have as announced earlier, a meeting scheduled for Monday, the 24th. Thank you, Councilor Tallman. Part of the meeting, most of the meeting is supposed to be about the meeting with DOR, our outside auditor, for an order, some emails, and some questions that we all have about what happened and transpired in the middle of the fiscal year in what should have been free cash that was not free. They are available in what became, luckily, I guess, additional monies that we were allowed to raise through the increased sales of single-family homes. But I'm still waiting to hear back from our local DOR rep, who is assigned to us, and I know that there is a supervisor, and the president has agreed to help me make sure that one of them can be present to answer our questions. Along with that, the number of guests invited, will be with at least one representative. Our outside auditor, I found out today that the closing of the books for fiscal 19 is taking place. The final product is being written up, meaning an executive summary of the audit itself and the audit itself, which we usually get about this time of year, and that's when we usually meet with Molassen and Heath. But I will ask them, because I think see this as a roundtable discussion, if we can pull it off for this Monday, that they be present also.
Councilor Bartley.
Just one more point of order, so just in case you're keeping track at home, from the 750 we transferred, use that very loosely, into stabilization, the running balance is now 451,926.
Thanks for keeping track of that. I know you got the numbers there.
Right here.
It's right there. You got it.
All right, so on to.
And the auditor confirmed that, just so you know.
All right, so on to
Good to know.
14A, the Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that the Public Safety Committee meet with a list of people here in order to, what actions to take to improve community awareness and involvement to reduce this violence. Recommend that the order has been complied with. With the following recommendation, request that the Chief of Police and the Mayor consider applying for the CORP grant for the number of officers and dollar amount both feel we can afford, and two, that we request the district attorney for any funding available to provide additional activities for youth with emphasis on programs for teens.
Make a motion that the committee report be received and adopted.
Motion is
Second.
to receive, adopt, under discussion. Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, we had a pretty good, probably an hour discussion with Captain Chief Febo, Captain Pratt, Representative Vega, Dr. Reich. We had the principal Steve Mogel from Morgan School. We had Mike Moriarty from One Holyoke, also representing a Landlords Association, and Linda Platt from Chestnut Street Alliance, also talking about some of the safety issues. Some of the things that were emphasized, two emphasis in terms of school, not so much once the kids are in school, but getting the kids at Morgan and Lawrence. There is significant concerns in terms of safety going to and from. And I know Dr. Reich and the chief had talked about potentially trying to get some additional police presence during those times. Representative Vega, we talked about trying to find some additional funds, especially to provide some additional opportunities for teens. I've also met with the Boys and Girls Club and Connor Bevan, who is trying to work, and I've sent him an email to suggest that we sit down with the DA and see if there's some funds available there. The COPS program is a federal grant, which would pay for three-fourths of the salary of an officer. You can do any number of officers. We originally looked and we discussed, I know the chief has told me to do a community policing project would require 4 officers, which is approximately $400,000, so the federal government would pay us $300,000. The 4th year, we would have to keep those officers and we would have to pay them. There was some concern that some of the requirements are that we need to maintain the number of police officers that we have in our budget. And I certainly would think from an aspect of public safety in this community, we need to make sure we maintain our police department. So I would encourage and I hope that the mayor and the chief at least will apply for 4 officers to provide additional community policing to get into, especially the Churchill neighborhood right now is probably our #1, although South Holyoke neighborhood has its issues as well. And that we'd be in a position to establish that, which would allow our other officers to be in a position to be more enforcing and preventing while the other ones are out there making community relations. And I also would like to thank Officer Colon and the 3 sheriff's deputies that are working in conjunction with him, and they're going to all kinds of meetings, and I know they've been to a lot of things in South Holyoke and with Ed Case, who also was at that meeting. And Ed, forgive me for forgetting you. You know, they have done a lot of things trying to reach out and getting people to feel more comfortable. They've also given me some insight into some of the dangers of going into certain buildings, and when they're feeling endangered and they have bulletproof vests and they have weapons and everything else, we need to find a way to increase this. So I'm hoping that the mayor and the chief can figure out a way to apply. The grant has to be applied for, I think, by March 15th. So there's time constraints on it. But we got some serious safety issues. Those are 2 primary areas. I know there's other areas in the city, but right now those are 2 that are probably the hottest. So whatever we can do, hopefully we'll get it done.
Any further discussion? Motion is to receive, adopt, sending this to a copy to the chief and the mayor.
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? On to public service, 15B. Committee on Public Service for an order that the Director of Veteran Services come before the City Council to discuss the tax work-off program. Recommend that be complied with.
Yeah.
Motion is to receive, adopt, that has been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, Jesus had a busy week with the city council, not only with the finance committee, but he was in front of us with the public service committee as well. This is an order that was filed some time ago from former Councilor Dan Bresnan. And what it's in regards to is the Veterans Tax Work-Off Program. And what that's about is a veteran applies, if they get accepted, they can work 125 hours and they get $1,500 knocked off their tax bill. The background information that they have to go through to do so is filling out an application. They have to be a vet. They have to pass a query. They also have to be in good standing with their taxes to begin with. Jesus came and said there's talk that there's going to be more money available down the road, he hopes, for the veterans. The department heads, the city department heads keep track of the people that volunteer, so such as if I was, if I had some background maybe in the water department, I'd be working for the water department, so you'd have Dave Conti, jotting down my information. Some of the questions is if a city employee is a veteran and wanted to do so, could they? And he said yes. So advertising, he does a very good job advertising. He goes onto the website, which I'll keep my comments saved for that. He also goes to Facebook. He does a lot of outreach. He goes to the Hello Holyoke Facebook group, and he gets a lot of names. Whoever does it this year goes to the bottom of the list, and it keeps going into a circle and that sort of thing. But it was a good meeting.
Any further? Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, just a question. Did you say how many people are eligible each year? Approximately?
So if anybody was there, if Joe or Todd, if refreshed my memory.
I can't remember the number.
Yeah.
But it was, the number that they had, say it was 25, they didn't have enough applicants.
So they could use more people then?
So they could use more people, and what would happen is, it's, as Councilor Lee said, it's a circle. You'd get it in line, and if you got it, then you go back to the end of the line to then try and come back up and get it again. But seeing how there wasn't enough applicants, people were coming back a second time around. So they didn't have enough applicants or enough veterans sign up for the use of it based on numbers. And I do believe it was like 20 or 25.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It wasn't a huge
Okay.
number.
No, I just state that I don't make it every week, but occasionally I go to the Veterans Lunch on Thursdays at the church, so I'll talk to some of my fellow veterans there and let them know about it to contact Jesus. Might be able to help some of them out.
I'm sure he'd probably give you a flyer, hand out flyers.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Councilor McGee?
I think the last time we hit the actual limit or the actual cap was when one of the reserve units at Barnes was activated and sent over overseas. And usually that's when it happens, is when there's a number of reserves that are activated that, you know, they qualify for this temporary abatement.
Councilor LeBron Martinez?
No, I was just gonna piggyback on what Mr. Tobin said, that he's gonna get that information to some other people. We have a veteran services at Mass Hire, so I'm gonna let him know about it. I'm quite sure he's connected with Jesus, but just to make sure we know about this.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, motion that the order's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 15C, that the Committee on Public Service invite in Scott McPherson, if I say that correctly.
Yeah, receive, adopt, and complied with.
For the media equipment, motion is receive, adopt, that's complied with. Under discussions, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, very quickly, Scott came in and he, the department that he oversees is pretty much, they get, I think it gets about $500,000 a year from Comcast. So Comcast pays for his department and all the technology. And he came in with some really good ideas about having smart boards. And just because of the way that this room is set up, you can't really hang anything, and he has some ideas where he wants to put different smart boards. So if people are coming in with blueprints, or if they're coming in and they're trying to tell us, you know, different property lines, it'll be much easier for us to see, but also, as importantly, the people at home will be able to see what we're talking about as well, because now people put plans up on this table here, and it's very difficult not only for us to get a visualization, but the people sitting at home have no idea what we're talking about. So that's one of the things he was discussing. He was also discussing removing these boxes. I have one, Councilor Lisi, I see has one, and removing some of the not needed technology that we have now and improving what we do have. He went into a couple other things where these cameras, they kind of look like little robot heads. You can see them kind of falling around you. He's going to work with that technology as well. Somebody had asked the question if they could put up, you know, the city councilor's name, you know, Councilor Juan Burgos, or that sort of thing. And he says he's going to be able to get it where the camera should know you and do that sort of thing.
Face recognition.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a good meeting.
Just on that point, Councilor, he came up just before the meeting started and said they're trying that right now.
Oh, really?
So if your name is not there right now, they said they were trying. So it is trying to go tonight to do that.
As long as they don't put down Councilor Soto for me.
And one thing else is that he's trying to put a box under the main table here to get the wiring away from everyone and kind of wired into a desk so that you don't have to walk into it and that type of stuff. So, cordless, he actually said, he did bring it up saying that that was not preferred due to a lot of the problems that come up with it, that these are a better way, or a better reception compared to cordless or wireless. So a motion that's been complied with.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 15D, Committee on Public Service, who was referred, that a representative from the Hoyoke School Department be invited to discuss the cost of lighting and janitorial services for youth athletic programs.
Yeah, so receive and adopt.
Motion that we receive, adopt, and that's been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, once again, Mr. Soto had a busy week with us as well. Mr. Soto came in with Mrs. Patty Ferrara, and the topic of the evening was pretty much the use of the school facilities for youth athletic programs. The outcomes were Mr. Soto and Mrs. Ferrara are going to go back with Dr. Reich and talk about kind of what their pricing is now for nonprofits versus profits versus residents versus non-residents, trying to make it fair and equitable for all the different groups that use it. such as if you have an AAU basketball game, team that's from Holyoke, compared to some other team that's from a different community, the city of Holyoke, their players, our children should have first, right of refusal type of thing. But it was Councilor Sullivan's order, so I'll pass it over to Michael.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you. No, you summed it up pretty good. The big take I got out of it is that any changes would have to not come from this body, but either from the receiver himself or from the school committee. That they're the ones that set the rates, and it's not in the venue of the athletic director or of Ms. Ferrer to change that. That's what's handed down to them. That's what they must adhere to. And the suggestion there is, and I'll be reaching out to the school committee as well as the receiver, that we should, if we've got for-profit groups and out-of-town nonprofits, we should be raising the prices to them to keep the prices as low as possible, not competitive for our own groups. That was the big thing. The other thing that came as a surprise to me that is for the high school athletic events, that there's a revolving fund there, and that's controlled strictly by the athletic director at the high school. And the thing we suggested there, and once again, I will go back to the receiver and the school committee. Why are we paying $5 to get into a basketball game or $5 to get into a football game, which is fine, but we're also charging out-of-towners the same to come into our facilities also. So there's not a discount for the residents, it's the same price across the board. And also that this, here's another revolving fund that I'd never heard of until that day, and that is controlled, and where that money goes and how it's spent is strictly at the discretion of the athletic director at the high school.
There's no further discussion. The motion is that's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There was no DGNR, no charter and rules, joint committee on city council and school committee, committee on joint committees in school and city council.
Yep.
To whom was referred that the city council or that the joint committee meet to discuss the city doing all that we can to improve the MSBA process along. If not, what can we do as a city to accelerate the process?
That should
Recommend that be complied with. Yep.
Okay.
So under discussion, Councilor LeVar Martinez.
Yes, I'm gonna also refer to my colleagues here because I don't have my minutes from my meeting, but so this particular order was, we could say that it was complied with. There was here, Devin Sheehan was here, and who else was here? Besides our committee, of course, Juan Burgos, Murphy,
Lefebvre.
and
Mildred.
Mildred Lefray and Miss Sims was here. And I guess from the time that this particular order was filed, there was some legwork already done that it was particularly being, addressed, and we felt that the order was complied with. Then there's a second order here, because this is written together, so there's a second order here that is the one that was also by Mr. Murphy. These orders are from Murphy. There was an amendment to it. Do you see the amendment here, Mr. Murphy? Because there was an there was a proposition of an amendment from Ms. Sims. Do you see it that it was?
No. So if I
go ahead.
Councilor Murphy.
So a couple of things. On the first order, again, the major thing was financial. And as you noticed today, we received a letter trying to determine whether or not we want to put an application into the MSBA to build one middle school. Part of that was supposed to be that they had received all the financial information from the city about our bond capacity, and it was my understanding, and I know School Committeeman Sheehan indicated he thought most of the stuff had been received, but Dr. Reich had indicated to me that they were still in the process, and he was trying to get the city to do more of that. So when the Finance Committee reviews the interest for the new school, I would suggest that we make sure that all that information has been filed, and that's why I filed that order. But that part, I'm comfortable that it's close to being complied with in terms of getting all the information out, but it's 2 months after the request, and it shouldn't be taking us 2 months to get financial information out to someone that's wanting to work with us, so. That one is, I would say, has been complied with. The second one, related to the safe route to school, and originally, and I know most people agree that the need of a sidewalk on St. Vincent Street and Main Street seems to be pretty obvious. The sad thing, interesting thing is that Dean School, even though it now has students that are in 8th grade or lower, which qualifies it, does not have enough of them as a percentage of the walking population to be able to qualify it. But we do have 4 schools in the city that would be qualified. Sullivan, Morgan, Lawrence, and Kelly are all eligible to receive funding to make the safe walkway to school better. And the amendment that we made was that we would recommend that this order go to the DPW superintendent, the city engineer, and the school department manager to put together a plan for those schools and apply for the funding. And I will say the school department manager indicated that the state really wants us to apply, and they have funds available that they would like to be able to work with us to do to make those those routes to school safer. So, but it is unfortunate that the Dean students who walk up St. Vincent Street cannot get a sidewalk.
So the second part of this was order that the school department and the Department of Public Works seek partnership with Mass DOT for a Safe Routes to School program. You're asking that be added in there at DPW, and a city engineer put together a plan for the schools that do qualify for the Safe Street or Safe Route program.
Yes, and it has to be a cooperative. They all have to apply together.
And okay, so that they'll have to put a plan together to apply together. So on that amendment, that's supposed to be in here, and we can put it after the first sentence. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So with the amendment, the 2 orders on one here is that they're now complied with. All those in favor? Councilor McGee.
You say 2 orders?
Well, it's really, they
A and B.
put kind of A and B on,
They're separate.
they're,
There were 2 separate orders.
I didn't do it that way.
I know, I understand, and I have to say thank you because we did receive an email with the notification of the meeting being February 12th, and we received it fairly timely fashion, but the agenda we received only had 1 item.
I think it was one item, but it was packaged together. Joe, it's working on it. It's work in progress.
We're getting there.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, just the second, after our last meeting, the second item got added, and they did send, obviously not to everybody, maybe some did, but they did send the second item as added to the agenda, and they did it the week, I know they did it before the deadline, so. But I do think, because of Ryan's father's health issues, that Ryan wasn't able to get involved with that, and I think Liz at the school department did that. So it may not have gotten everybody.
Look, the first time around it was good. We're going to get to this. No, it's all good. So this, as it's listed here, 18A with the amendment, is that they are complied with from the joint committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Next is motions, orders, and resolutions.
19 through 21 as a package, please.
Suspended rules, take up 19, 20, 21 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 19 from Councilor Lisi, 20 from Councilor Lisi, 21 from Councilor Lisi. 19 is that the medical marijuana deliveries be allowed in the city by special permit. 20 is that the marijuana industry activities be allowed in special permits in the DR, downtown residential zone. And 21 is that the buffer of all marijuana manufacturing be reduced from 500 feet to 200 feet. Those are all going to ordinance?
Ordinance, they're just, from the archives and different discussions that have come up, and I just put them together on the agenda for some upcoming meeting.
All right, so 2 ordinance, all those in favor?
Mr.
All
President?
opposed? Oh, sorry,
I had
Councilor.
my hand raised.
Bartley? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just on 20.
Yep.
I don't know if we need to make an amendment to that or not, but I challenge anybody to try to decipher the zoning map of the city of Holyoke online. So I need to get a list of every address or streets where the DR zone is located. I mean, I just cannot read that zoning map, and I don't feel incumbent upon myself to go through all 10,000 parcels and figure it out myself. So
you're asking for a list of all addresses?
all addresses and street addresses, and hopefully separated by ward as well, where properties are zoned DR.
Okay, so
And then we can have a frank discussion and ordinance about that.
you're looking for that to be given in ordinance, so that would be requested.
Yeah, it's hopefully in advance of the meeting, whenever that is, but I guess so that would have to be a referral to planning for us to get an understanding, or at least for me to get an understanding of where these are. And just further in discussion, Mr. President?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we just sold, so we declared surplus and we agreed to a sale of a property, a two-family at the corner of Chapin and Gates. And we sold that to a developer. I've been standing there, Castor, Chapin, and Gates is all kind of one street. That is, I don't know, a couple hundred feet from Peck School in a very heavily settled, long-established residential neighborhood. I get the fact that any applicant has to get a special permit, but I'm just humbly suggesting, particularly to ward councilors who may or may not come to ordinance meetings, that when something is zoned DR in the ward you represent, when abutters to that house, whether or not they're noticed and whether or not they show up to a public hearing, which so many do not, please, I mean, if there's something that we have to be aware of, it's having any kind of a marijuana facility in a thickly residential neighborhood where DR zones rest. Please be aware of that. That's why I want to get the list of all the streets. This, to me, is an incredibly dangerous ordinance proposal, Mr. President. So I just want to have us go very slowly on this. I don't want to get the calls after the fact, why is there a marijuana facility next to my house on Gate Street when I just moved in with a two-family with three small children? I wasn't able to attend the public hearing, and it passed by special permit. Can I envision a scenario like that? I certainly can, Mr. President. So I just want to get a list of all the addresses where this could possibly be situated.
Just a question, I know it's going to committee, but wouldn't they require notice be given to them?
There's no question, Mr. President, but if I may address the chair, yes. So, yes, they would get a bar notice. But it's been my experience, Mr. President, only 8 years, and 7 of them sitting on ordinance, where there are so few abutters that even though they get notice, they come to City Hall for a meeting, for childcare or work or family obligations or on vacation. So they miss the meeting. If it's tabled and goes forward, there are no more notices that we understand as elected officials. You get one bite at that apple for notice. You miss it, you're done. So can I envision a scenario where they miss the meeting, and then furthermore, they don't know how to contact a city councilor? And so this is DR zone, residential zoning, where this can go. I get we're going to have this discussion ordinance, but that's why I think it's so critical for all of us to understand where every parcel is DR zoned, every one of their addresses.
Okay, got it. Councilor McGee.
Mr. President, I'd just like to thank Councilor Bartley, because I know we all going to vote the way we're going to vote, but for friendly advice about something that is very important, and zoning is something that is misunderstood by I think, a lot of people. And I think the more education we provide out there, the better we are, because it's not just people who are against something that don't come to public hearings. More often than not, it's people who are in favor of something that don't come to public hearings.
All right, so with that, 19, 20, and 21 are to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 22 from Councilor Lisi, that the mayor renegotiate pilots for HHA, Water Department, HG&E, and better reflect the true value of the city's services these entities benefit from the city. That would
Receive,
be-
adopt, refer to the mayor.
Motion would be to receive, adopt, refer to the mayor,
Please add Sullivan to that, too.
adding Councilor Sullivan. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 23 from Councilor Lisi, that the CPC ordinance be amended to require that the CPC come before the city council to present on decisions that were made for or not to fund applicants that applied for funding.
Receive, send to ordinance.
Motion is received, sent to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 24 is from Councilor McGee, or that the DPW address the stair and walkway around City Hall and parking deck annex and the walkway near the courthouse during storm times. DPW to appear before public safety to discuss. I know we
For
started that
Public Safety
discussion.
Committee?
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 25 from Councilor McGee, that a handicap sign be placed at 89 Waldo Street.
Ordinance.
Ordinance with a copy
Copy.
to the commission.
Yep.
All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? 26, that the special state election in the city of Holyoke for the second Hampden, Hampshire district, March 31st, 2020. Polls be open at 7 a.m., closing at 8 p.m., and it's in English and Spanish. This motion is to receive and adopt. Oh,
Wait a
Councilor
second,
Lisi?
is it March 31st or March 3rd?
Where, yeah.
Second.
Yeah, we did the March 3rd already.
So then we
This is
can't have our ordinance committee meeting on the 31st.
Nope.
Okay. So I'll contact planning about that. Okay. Thank you.
So, this in 27, I'd say take up as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 27 is the polling places for March 31st, 2020. And it lists them by ward. Motion is to receive and adopt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 28 from Councilor McGivern.
I will also suspend the rules to take up 28 and 29 together for purpose of passing this evening.
Going to take up 28 and 29 as a package. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? 28 is the $14,360.55 from patrolman to injured on duty. 29 is $2,121.32 from firefighters to injured on duty, of which for firefighters, it's 1. For police, 5. So motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Again, accounting purposes for patrolmen and firefighters who come off duty, even if it's temporary for maybe a day or two over a weekend, that we know that even though they still should get their salary, that it's not a salary that's being paid for actual on-duty services. So this helps us keep a track of the on-duty performances of patrolmen and firefighters per salary.
So motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the 2.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Graney, Leahy. Unanimous vote.
For your vote, you're approved. 28 and 29. 30 is the Vulnerability Preparedness Program Grant to Finance.
Receive before the Committee on Finance.
All those in favor? All those opposed? 31 is from Councilor Murphy. Or that the DGNR committee meet with the mayor, the law department, building commissioner, health director, and planning director to review 145 Essex Street.
To be referred to the DGNR?
Motion is to send to DGNR. All those in favor?
If I could.
Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, just, I happened to be there on Wednesday from around 12 to around 1:30, quarter to 2, and, and I also came to the mayor's office, and I know we were scrambling to try to make sure we got everything done. I want to compliment the city solicitor, because I know she's worked diligently to try to get the landlord to do certain things, and then that seems to be happening. I want to compliment Mr. Bloomberg, and he's given us a lot of information and kept us up informed. But the reality is, on Wednesday at 11 o'clock, the tenants tried to go back to try to get some of their properties. The landlord was there. He was sitting in his vehicle. I got there and I didn't realize he was the landlord at the time. When I got there and I said, why are they all standing around in his car? And I asked him, could you just let the tenants in to get their medicines and their pets and some clothes and stuff? And I also, came to the mayor's office and tried to see if I could get the city to allow the people into the DPW instead of having to stand out on the street corner. And at that point, I was told that we can't do that, and I know we ended up doing it. So I think we need to really get a total plan as to what we can do, what we can't do, and how we're going to do it. Because this, I mean, obviously, we hope this doesn't happen again, but we know it's going to happen again, and we need to be better prepared. And I would also compliment, because it came very close to a dangerous situation, and I will compliment the police. They came, they were relatively calm in dealing with it in some very stressful situations. We went from Essex and Elm Street to Appleton and Elm Street, which is not the place I'd want to go to try to calm people down. And they came and they pretty much got everybody to go back to the Essex Street Department. And then the police came and they were able to start escorting people one by one into their apartment to get medicines, to get pets, and a variety of other things. And I know Sean Gonzalez came and also helped out there. So, I mean, we try to do a lot of things, but it really needs to be better coordinated, and we need to be able to deal with something without having people out on the street for 5 or 6 hours protesting. We got to be able to deal with something, and I don't know exactly what it is. And I do hope that and I know we are being strong against this landlord, but I hope that we are as strong as we can be against this landlord. While I was there, I also heard 2 tenants from 2 of his other buildings letting me know that they have concerns about safety in their buildings, one of them being in South Hoyoke, one of them being in the flats. So, I mean, we need to do everything we can to move aggressively, and I know, there's instances where he seems to be trying to cooperate, but we've got a lot of concerns with this landlord's properties.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, and I agree with everything that Councilor Murphy said. The only thing I'm suggesting here is that maybe this belongs in public safety, not DGNR, and naturally I'll defer to both chairs on this one, but it sounds from everything I've heard here that almost everything here is public safety related.
Wherever you want it to go, Terry.
Yeah, the only reason I said DGNR because I was inviting so many different governmental entities, so.
Oh, he is.
I mean, I know it's a safety issue. I also think it's a government functional issue. I'm public safety. And
You're the maker of the order, so.
Yeah.
So.
Hold on, Councilor LeBron Martinez.
Yeah, with the maker of the order, I'd like to be added on to that. And I also, I think one of the things that I've learned is that the team that it's actually managing a lot of this work comes from the fire department, and the person assigned to do an address disaster or some management of some type is through the fire department. And it's very complicated because I faced that when the fire on Northbridge, the Red Cross didn't arrive till 1 o'clock in the morning. I was out there till 3 o'clock in the morning, letting people sit in my car warming up. It was freezing. That fire didn't allow people to come and jump into their clothes or shoes or whatever. Most of them were sitting in my car, and had to call another person to come out into the fire department, was able to settle everything out. But I think there's got to be some type of a good plan. I know the city has done what they can, but there's sometimes some answers that we can't even give in regards to placing some of these people immediately. So, thank you.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. With the maker's permission, I would also like to be added to the order, and I was just going to ask for suspension of the rules to see if legal could just advise us who is responsible for emergency management.
Motion to suspend rules to allow legal to speak. All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed?
I believe emergency management is someone from the Board of Fire Commissioners, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think, so just kind of going off of what Councilor LeBron Martinez was saying, it would be great to understand, like, I mean, something with one building is relatively small in scope to some sort of, emergency that could happen citywide. And so if we don't really understand, roles, responsibilities, and regulations in this one instance, what does that translate to on a citywide scale? So I do think that having our emergency management or preparedness director at the meeting would be a friendly amendment. And I think, going along with what the order says right here, like, we really need to understand, like, roles, responsibilities, division of labor, et cetera, when these sorts of events happen, so that we could give people the information that they need quickly, easily, and I think it just instills like a degree of confidence that the city is helping to take care of them in the situation if people understand what their roles are and where they're supposed to be at any given time.
So I'll amend my motion to send it to Public Safety Committee, since they will be having a meeting a week from tomorrow.
All right, so motion is to send
Put this on the agenda.
to public safety. All those in favor?
Aye.
And with the friendly amendment to have
Yes.
the
I'll-
emergency preparedness.
Yeah,
Adding
Fire chief.
emergency preparedness. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 32 is from Councilor Tallman. Order that the ordinance, section 12-4, flags of the city of Holyoke be amended to include new regulations for flying the POW flag.
Receive and send to ordinance.
Sending to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye, and just real briefly,
Yep,
just
Councilor Tallman. Yep.
contacted Jesus on behalf of him doing this. I guess this was adopted federally last year, and he's thinking that the state will be doing it soon. So he just wants to get on top of it. So we'll discuss it more when it gets to ordinance committee. But I think it's important to have this in ordinance for the future, because any flags, I mean, there's flags all over, all the state buildings, right here, schools, all the parks. It could be a cost, but I think it's important to have this in ordinance so that we're on top of it.
So it's gone to ordinance. 33 is from Councilor Bacon, Councilor Bartley, that the president of the MMA be invited to attend a DGNR meeting.
Receive and refer to DGR.
Motion to receive and refer to
President,
DGNR. Councilor
Just
McGivern.
a friendly request amendment possible. The MMA also has a component of not local, but of statewide city councilors, board of aldermen, I think selectmen, who have their own part of the MMA, but have their own meetings separately and to work on issues and work on different things that are something meaningful to all of us. If we could ask the chair of that to join the president of the MMA. I think up until recently, or maybe he still is, but it's been an alderman from Chicopee who has had the entire state in that role. And it would be nice, I think, just to have, especially if that alderman is still part of it, to be present at this meeting.
What is his title again?
He's chair of the committee on, the MMA committee of city councilors, selectmen, aldermen.
So, motion is to amend to invite in also the chair of the committee of councilors and aldermen from the MMA.
Mr.
Councilor Tallman.
If the makers of order don't mind, if I'd be added onto that order, I'm very much interested in the MMA. As a matter of fact, I may be joining a meeting in March with Councilor Bartley. Last one I went to, I think it was in 2003. I got the packet here up at UMass. It was a whole day affair, and it was very informative. And there was probably well over 50 to 60 counselors and select people there and government officials from the Boston area at that meeting. So if I could be added onto that, I'd be happy to.
Sure.
All right, so on the amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adding Councilor Tallman. 33 to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are a few late files. Late file from Councilor McGivern, $101,696 from stabilization for sick buyback police.
Police or fire?
This says police.
I was notified that there was some buyback issues coming up, and also one for fire, I believe, for Chief Pond's buyback, or half of Chief Pond's buyback.
I'll check that. That might be the next one. This one is for 7 retirees from the police department.
Okay.
So that one.
We could receive, refer to Committee on Finance.
Finance.
Sorry
all
for
in favor?
discussion.
All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
B, late file B is $19,580 from stabilization to buyback police as well. So I'm not sure.
Receive for the Committee on Finance.
Finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? C is another one for vacation buyback, $17,046 from stabilization to police vacation buyback. Finance,
Finance, please.
all those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed? $8,000 from stabilization for motor vehicle police for supplies.
Finance.
Motion is to send to finance. All those in favor? All those opposed? E is for $30,000 from stabilization to R&M Motor Vehicles Police.
Finance, please.
Motion is to finance. All those in favor? All opposed? F is from Councilor Leahy. Order that the city or vendor create a system for constituents to be able to track councilors' orders and outcomes of those orders. This information be available via the website. So that would be to Public Service. Public Service, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? G is from Councilor Graney, that a handicap space be placed at 420 Dwight Street.
That's the Warregan building. It's, there's a ramp and a lot, but there's no handicap parking there. I believe it's Canal Walk in that area. There is no handicap space there, but there is a ramp.
So to ordinance and the commission, all those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? H from Councilor McGivern, $35,358.01 for sick leave buyback. That's the fire department. That would be the chief pond.
Finance, please.
To finance, all those in favor? All opposed? Last one by yours truly, Councilor McGee, or at the city council give a proclamation to Ronald Dietrich for celebrating 60 years of service to the auxiliary police department. And that'll be in March. It's part of 60 years to police and parade detail.
Wow.
So make a motion to suspend the rules, take up now. All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is to grant the proclamation. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed? We stand adjourned.